What's up, guys? Welcome to Press X Podcast, episode 55. I am obviously, as you can see, not doing any gameplay today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to capture any. I did do a stream earlier this week, though, where I played some Dead by Daylight, so you can check that out. But thank you guys for being here. We certainly have a lot to talk about, and I will be looking for your feedback with this format. Let me know if you would like me to just be on camera like this more during the podcast. I did it for a little bit, but yeah, so just, let me know how much you like that. I mean, I'm going to go on camera more often no matter what because I think it just makes sense to do that. But oh man, my screen just glitched out big time there. There's always something going on every week with the, when I'm doing this podcast, man. It's crazy. But guys, do me a favor, hit that like button. For some reason, there are a lot of, I guess, Xbox fanboys coming to the channel, leaving dislikes. So the best way you can combat that to help me out, make sure you hit that like button. I mean, the podcast hasn't even started and yet people are disliking it. It is what it is. Shout out to a new member, Tim Edwards. Thank you for becoming a member, buddy. And so, yeah, huge shout out to all of my members. I'm going to be giving the special shout out that I do each week for you guys. But if you do want to help support the channel, if you like what I do here, just, not only interacting with the content, obviously that helps. But if you want to go the extra mile, consider donating a super chat, become a channel member. That definitely helps. So thank you so much, Tim Edwards. I really appreciate that. And we actually do have two super chats that I have to acknowledge here. It's not going to show it, of course. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why it's not showing it, but I tried to acknowledge those super chats in the chat before I started. So I do apologize. Everything's like kind of glitching out on my end. I don't know why. Maybe it's on YouTube's end. Also, really quick, I do want to apologize in advance for the camera quality. I don't know how good it is. I mean, this is just like a cheap webcam that I bought a while ago. It's nothing, super high quality. On my end, it looks like there's a lot of, I don't know, just noise. So I don't know that there's anything I can do to help that. In the future, if I continue to go on camera more often, I will obviously upgrade this webcam to something better. So hopefully it's good. You guys are saying it isn't bad? All right, well, glad that's the case. So let me give a quick shout out to some of my members. Obviously, big shout out to all of my members. You guys are awesome. You help power the channel. You help make it easier for me to do what I do here, obviously. But we do have two separate tiers that you can upgrade to: the Play Has No Limits Plus and the Play Has No Limits tier, if you want to go truly above and beyond. So absolutely huge shout out to the Play Has No Limits Plus tier. Massive shout out to Junior Jackson, D. Luffy, Samuel Payne, Josh Z, Solid Arachnid, Matt Wheatley, and David Gaines. You guys are truly showing your support in a big way here, and I really do appreciate that. Then we have the Play Has No Limits tier. Big shout out to Brandon Chad Perez, Alpha Acer, Brittany Goes Meow, Adrian Pollard, Sane JT, Big Norman 0518, Tyson Webb 509, MH, Shaky Shako, Space Gambler Jr., Sir Speaks a Lot, Jeffrey Hicks, Rune Gasoden, and Whiskey Gaming. Thank you guys so much again for doing what you do here to help me do what I do. Really appreciate it. Really goes a long way. So I would give you a brief rundown on the topics we're going to be discussing today, but I'm not going to, simply because something tells me that, as usual, it's going to kind of go off the rails and veer in its own direction. I do have some basic topics laid out here, but obviously there has been a lot going on in the realm of PlayStation and Xbox. And, a lot of it has kind of been shifted in a negative light towards PlayStation, understandably so. And, there are just certain things that we have to talk about here. Now, I did I think like a 45-minute reaction to the news of MLB The Show. And obviously that's going to take up a big chunk of what we talk about here. But as you can see by my thumbnail and my title, I think Sony's response, frankly, is obvious. I think that, there are a lot of people who are demanding certain things. And I think it's interesting because right now Sony is being very quiet. I think that's honestly starting to work against Sony, especially at this point. Like what happened with MLB The Show. Oh, and actually, you know what? Really quick, also, I meant to write this down, but I just remembered. Big shout out to Devil Shooter. I think it's 127, but Devil Shooter. I don't know if you're here right now, but he does the timestamps for the podcast every single week, and he does them way better than I could. And he does it to help out the community here and those who want to watch it afterwards. So show your support to Devil Shooter by making sure you thank him when he does that. And I wanted to be sure to give you a big 126. Okay, I was off by 126. I just want to thank you for that, man, because a lot of people each week really ask for the timestamps, and you really, come through for me in a big way there. So thank you so much for that, man. But yeah, with the whole MLB The Show 21 thing, it's launching into Game Pass. Sony's silence as of right now is only a bad thing, and I can't deny that. There's people who are feeling the need to get defensive, and it's sad because when I did my 45-minute reaction, I saw a lot of really negative comments, like people just kind of jumping on me and dogpiling on me and making it sound like I'm damage controlling. And honestly, I feel like if you listen to everything I had to say, I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I don't think I was damage controlling. I was trying to see all the different angles. I mean, if you listen to that, I literally said, I think Sony should, for the PlayStation fans, for the PlayStation fan base, and then to match Microsoft offering their first-party game on a Game Pass, they should give out MLB The Show 21 for free as a PlayStation Plus title for at least 1 or 2 months. I don't think that there would be anything wrong with that. In fact, I think that that would be the smartest thing Sony could do right now. No, that doesn't mean Sony has to release all of their games day and date like Microsoft does. Okay, that's not what that means. It means that right now, with this specific example, you are looking at a video game that is developed by a Sony-owned studio, that being Sony San Diego. So the idea of taking that Sony-developed video game and putting it onto PlayStation Plus as a free PlayStation Plus game for 1 month, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I do think that if Sony doesn't do something after this, to just show that they're listening and they're paying attention, I think that's a problem. Now, that doesn't mean, see, here's the thing. See, I see what you're saying. You're saying some people are overreacting. Yeah, you're not wrong. Some people are overreacting big time. I mean, the stuff I've been reading is absurd, right? The stuff I've been seeing. Now, there are a lot of really hardcore Xbox fans who've been following Xbox for a long time. And we know that Xbox has been losing pretty badly for a long time. So there's a lot of vindicated fanboys right now, and we are feeling that effect. We are feeling that energy, and I can't fault them. I'm not going to sit here and say that, Xbox fans shouldn't be happy or shouldn't be excited. And frankly, I can actually understand the other side where there are Xbox fanboys who feel like they've been, eating, just a lot of crow, I guess you could say, or just, whatever you want to say, however you want to put it. They've just been taking a lot of L's for a long time. And so I can totally understand why they're coming back now and pushing back against the PlayStation fan base and really running with, to be honest, a lot of nonsensical rhetoric that I think is just kind of ridiculous. There's, there are people who are saying we're too focused on we're too focused on how much money Sony is making because PlayStation is making a lot of money. They're not in the red. They're only in the green. They're breaking records. They're selling PS5s. That, we're too focused on that when really we should be focused on asking Sony to do better, to do more. And I'm not actually against that. I do think that there is certainly a time to make your voice known as the consumer, as the customer. But at the same time, there is a big difference between turning to Sony as a PlayStation fan and as a gamer and saying, hey, Sony, I don't want to feel like I have to go over to Game Pass to get the best value and the best deal on a Sony first-party game. Please do something about that. There's a difference between that and between turning around and being like, oh my God, Sony's on fire. They're going down. they're not making any more games. There's no reason to own a PlayStation anymore. There's no reason to be excited about their games anymore, because this is where there's a clear line, not a fine line, a clear definitive line between these different takes, right? It's like I always said when I talked about Xbox in the darkest days of Xbox, that things will eventually get better. I don't know that they'll be as good as maybe some people are hoping, but they will get better. I've always said that. I always said that Sony or Microsoft will eventually produce some games that are going to be better quality. We just don't know how long it's going to take. We will have to wait. That's unfortunate, but it's just ridiculous to see the way people are acting about this. I mean, it's a big deal. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not a big deal. However, we also do need to understand that I don't know that Sony had much choice in the matter. Sony was given two options, okay? When the MLB approached them to renew their contract to develop MLB The Show, these were the two options that Sony was given. Either we are going to remove the MLB license from you and give it to someone else because we want the MLB everywhere, or you're going to sign this contract, you're going to be able to continue to develop the game and bring in a big chunk of that money that you're entitled to for developing the game, and you're going to let us put this anywhere we want, and that includes Game Pass. Okay, that's what people don't understand. Like, I've literally seen people running around. I'm not kidding, guys. I'm not kidding. Go watch some of these Xbox YouTube channels, man. They're literally out here saying that this opens the door for more Sony published exclusive games to release onto Xbox and Xbox Game Pass. It's ridiculous, dude. I mean, the only one I've seen kind of thrown up is Spider-Man, because this is if I'm not mistaken, I think Marvel allows Sony to license it. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if Sony owns it or whatnot, but that maybe that does open the door. Maybe Marvel's going to be like, we want to strong arm you now into releasing. Insomniac Games can still make and you can still publish this game on your platform, but we want it to be everywhere. Yeah, that's where things get a little interesting. The Caped Crusader is saying, MBG, you have to understand it's a strategy to sell more copies and bring more eyes to MLB. It's not going to affect Sony or PlayStation as bad as you think. No, dude, trust me, I'm well aware of that. I'm just trying to take an even stance where, as a PlayStation fan, I'm not feeling any less excited about the future of PlayStation, but I can acknowledge the problem that people see here with this. That's all. Where it's like, look, is this going to cripple PlayStation and suddenly make it so that suddenly a game like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and a game like Horizon Forbidden West, they're not worth playing now? They're good. They're DOA, right? Like, no, but it maybe does bring up the red flag of like, Sony, you're letting your competition take a first-party game from you, whether it's by your choice or not. The MLB forced you into this position, and they're offering a better value, a better deal than you are right now on your own damn game. I'm sorry. Sony should do something about that. Does that mean that they should offer Horizon Forbidden West and Ratchet and Clank, or even a game like Returnal day one for PlayStation Plus owners? No. But maybe for a game like MLB, when your competition is literally swiping it from you and doing that exact thing, maybe that's where you come out and you say, okay, in this case, we're going to do that, right? That's all. I think it's just a logical thing to do for your fan base. I will explain in a second why I think Sony might not do that. Not that I agree with it, but why they won't, or probably won't. Ekim, you're saying, I think it would do well for Sony to answer back to Game Pass to put some games on PS Plus day and date. Sony still has the better games. Lean in on it. Yeah, I mean, dude, that's the thing here. This, more than anything, with this whole MLB thing, it has really brought up a big conversation and a big push, honestly, from just the general gaming community of like, should Sony respond to Game Pass? Would it be should they do that? Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they do that? It's created a new conversation where Sony is not saying a word, at least as of right now. And so it does kind of call into question, what is Sony planning on doing? Are they planning on doing anything? And we're going to get into Sony's response and why I think it's obvious what Sony's going to do, in my opinion anyway. Samson, you're saying, I've supported the show for years. Now it goes to Xbox Game Pass and I have to pay $70? I'm not overreacting. I'm pissed because I'm not getting respect. And see, that's what I'm talking about, man. That's why People think I'm just a radical PlayStation fanboy who will literally defend everything Sony does. I'm not that. I can see both sides of the coin. Just like I said, I understand that Sony did not have a choice in this game going to Xbox and Game Pass. They could have. If Sony said, we're not going to support the MLB wanting to make this game multi-platform and potentially going to Game Pass, they would have given up the license and given up a huge chunk of money. And then Sony San Diego, the experts, the people who've been making the show every single year, they're going to have to go make something else now rather than continuing to do what they do best. So I understand why Sony did that, but I understand exactly what you're saying, man, where it's like, you're somebody who does play the show. You're somebody who does care about this game. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you turning to Sony and saying, Sony, dude, your competition is offering your game for $10 right now, or $1, I guess, if you haven't signed up before. Do something with this game for me as your customer, as your consumer, as your fan. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I'm sorry. There's nothing wrong with wanting to own your game as well. Like, people think that suddenly people who buy the show every year are not going to do it. Maybe a chunk of those people won't now, and they will go to Game Pass, but another chunk of people are still going to buy and play this game because that's just how they play their games. They buy their games, they own them digitally or physically. That's just how it goes. Kendall Fire is saying, if Xbox fanboys want PS exclusives so badly, why don't they just buy a PlayStation? Yeah, I mean, again, this is where we get into the rhetoric where it gets kind of ridiculous, where it's like, I'm sorry, if you're an Xbox fan and you're sitting back thinking that because the show is launching in the Game Pass, because the MLB is publishing it, and they can make that type of deal outside of without Sony's permission, or without Sony needing to be involved. If you're sitting back waiting for games like God of War, Horizon, Ratchet and Clank, and future titles that are going to come out from Naughty Dog and Guerrilla Games and Sucker Punch, if you think that you're going to get these games on Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, I mean, look, I think you're going to be waiting endlessly. That's not going to happen. That is, I don't there are no signs that Sony and Microsoft plan to just give each other their games. That's not what's happening here. People forget, all of these Xbox fans, dude, we've had Minecraft for forever, right? And I'm just trying to draw this comparison because it is similar, where you bring up the fact that Microsoft is now getting a Sony-owned studio game. Granted, there is the Game Pass value, but what about Minecraft? Are we just going to pretend that Mojang or Mojang, however you say it, isn't a Microsoft-owned first-party studio that they bought, right? They could have yanked that game off of PlayStation, which would have been a power move, and make it locked behind the Xbox console and Xbox Game Pass. But no, they kept it on PlayStation. So we technically have a first-party Microsoft game on PlayStation. Does it matter? Does that suddenly mean that Halo and Gears and Fable and Forza are all going to come to PlayStation? No, it doesn't. Mr. Unknown, you're saying Spider-Man isn't going to Xbox. If Marvel made them do that, Sony would pull Spider-Man from the MCU. Neither Marvel/Disney or Sony wants that. Yeah, that is a good point. I know that there's a little bit of nuance to the whole situation that's going on there. I want to try to make sure not to miss any of these super chats because YouTube's acting very strange for me right now. So we have straight from VA1, you're saying if Sony has the pre-order numbers, they won't change anything. If you don't have an Xbox, you would have spent $300 or $500. You would have to spend $300 or $500 to get one, then get Game Pass. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is there are PS4 owners right now. There are also PS5 owners who don't want to be bothered, and that's just the truth. They may look at the Game Pass the deal and an offer, but they also look at the console they have and the way they've been buying their games, and they think, I'm just going to buy this game, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Just like there's nothing wrong with the individual who turns around and says, well, Microsoft's giving me a good deal over here if you do have an Xbox or if you do have access to Game Pass and you want to save your money. Dude, trust me, I buy all of my games as well. I'm not being given games for free. I totally understand that. If you have the opportunity to save money and that's valuable to you and that means something to you, then support that. But at the same time, you guys know what I'm talking about. There is a difference between, again, acknowledging the value proposition that Microsoft is bringing to the table, acknowledging the fact that Sony and Microsoft are just going in two different directions, and you can partake in both, or you can partake in one or the other, and then making it sound like suddenly this is a death blow to the PlayStation brand. I'm just very confused with the people who are doing that. Primal Plasma, you're saying MLB The Show is not a big loss. That's like losing Knack. Well, that's the thing is like, I don't want to yeah, it's MLB The Show. It's not God of War. It's not something like that. It's not, you know what I mean? It's a game that frankly should have been multi-plat from the start, just like Minecraft is multi-plat, right? Like, there are just some games. It's like, why isn't this everywhere? You know, it's a freaking sports game. It should be everywhere. But that's different from acknowledging the fact that Microsoft is offering something better, you know, a better deal on a Sony developed game than Sony is themselves. That's the problem, in my opinion. The Contextual Gamer is saying MLB just sold out to Microsoft. Let MLB find out. Doing this won't always be viable for them, and San Diego studios won't always be there to develop their IP. Well, we're going to have to see. You know what's interesting to me about this is what Sony may be paying attention to, because I don't know if Sony's necessarily going to have access to the data that Microsoft does when it comes to how many people are playing this game on Game Pass. I'm sure they will. You would have to imagine that they will. At Sony San Diego will have access to that data. This could be a test for Sony. This, like, what we are witnessing with MLB could be the biggest test. People expect a response right now, like Sony, get up, do it now. But maybe Sony's being smarter and saying, well, I don't want to say smarter. I'm speaking from a business perspective, of course. From a business perspective, they're like, you know what? Let's see. Let's see how many people engage with Game Pass with this game, how many people we may lose. Like how much lower the sales on PlayStation consoles are, like full price game sales. If this is a very interesting moment, because we're going to see with MLB The Show specifically how much people really care about a game going in the Game Pass. We're going to see that. And Sony, for the first time, is going to have direct access to that data themselves with a game that was once exclusive to PlayStation. So if Sony sees that a ton of people are suddenly no longer buying this game on PlayStation and they're actually playing it on Game Pass, at that point, Sony may consider maybe we need to change something here. So they're not going to jump to anything. That's the thing. I don't know why anybody believes Sony's going to jump to anything. Sony doesn't jump to anything. I hope that they're listening and they're paying attention. I mean, come on. Do you really think Sony isn't paying attention to what's going on right now? They are. And that's why what we say as the fans, it's important that, like, if you want a better deal on MLB right now from Sony, make it known. Make it known. The best way to do that, don't buy it on PlayStation. But I can tell you right now, if Sony sees very little difference in the amount of copies they sell on PlayStation after this game is available on Game Pass, you think they're going to stop selling their games at full price? No, they're not. They have to see a dip. Speak with your wallets. That's what it always comes down to. D-Doc, you're saying it might not be a one-to-one representation, but Andrew Reiner had a poll asking where people will be playing MLB The Show, and 60% plus said PS5 or PS4. Well, it's hard to see. That's the thing, is like these polls are meaningless only because we don't know. Sony knows. Sony will know. And the best, I said this in my stream, the best way or the best piece of data that we, the public, will have access to is the May MPD report. The show launches this month, and so in May, we're going to see if it charts on PlayStation. Because if I'm not mistaken, and somebody in the chat, please let me know, or somebody in the comments afterwards, if I'm not mistaken, MLB The Show charts in the top 10 every year it releases, at least within the month of its release, right? So if it doesn't chart this year, that may be the first sign that, looks like Microsoft found a way to cut into Sony's sales, at least for MLB. So let's see what Sony decides to do at that point. Devakin, you're saying, as an Xbot, I'm not expecting Sony games on Xbox, but with Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer throwing money at everything, anything is possible right now. I think the possibilities are definitely a little bit more. Brett Williams, sorry, I missed your super chat. You're saying Xbox took the L 3 generations in a row, and suddenly one hiccup means PlayStation is completely destroyed. Get it together, people. Yeah, dude, look, that's what I'm saying. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying Sony hasn't been making a string of strange decisions, because they have. Sony has been doing some odd things the past couple of months. Not everything they've been doing is odd, but just definitely like, eyebrow raising, head scratching, like, why are you doing this, right? And it's certainly upsetting some people. But I've tried to explain to everybody that every person has their own opinion and their own viewpoint. Because even though we sit here in a bubble, you sit there on your phone in a bubble, and, Microsoft is gaining momentum on social media. Here's the question. How does it really affect Sony and the PlayStation brand? Is what is happening right now going to negatively affect PlayStation console sales? More importantly, is it going to negatively affect interaction on the PlayStation ecosystem? Will what is happening right now and what has happened in the past couple months, is it going to cut out, a certain section of people who were once engaging with the PlayStation Network, who were once buying games on PlayStation? Are they leaving? Are they leaving the ecosystem? That is what Sony will be looking for. And when Sony sees that, they're going to react. I'm not saying that's always best for us, because in this case with MLB, I don't want Sony to sit back and wait. I don't want Sony to wait to see that MLB The Show is selling worse on PlayStation than it ever has before because there's a better deal out there on it on Game Pass. I don't want Sony to wait until that point to then turn around and say, okay, we're going to put it on PS Plus now, as a gesture to fans that, look, our competition's giving it to you for $10. We're going to give it to you for free if you're subscribed to PlayStation Plus. I think that sucks. Like, I think this is a situation where Sony actually needs to react. I can understand from a business standpoint why they would want to wait and look at the data first, but just from a optics standpoint, from a pro-consumer standpoint, Sony should react to this. And it's a simple reaction. Give it to your PlayStation Plus subscribers. Just do it. Take the loss. Take the loss as a gesture of goodwill that we will try to match some pro-consumer moves that Microsoft is doing. It's your own game. It's your own game. Just do it. That's my stance. It's your own game. Just do it. Like, that could not be bad for anybody. If you are a PlayStation fan who sits there and says, Sony's the absolute best, they are God, they can do no wrong, and I don't care about MLB, that game's stupid, even then, that will have no negative impact on you whatsoever. So, straight from VA1, you're saying, I expect Sony to combine PS Plus and PS Now to rival Game Pass and at lower annual costs than Game Pass. Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting to see in the coming months what Sony plans to do. Dude, some of the comments I'm seeing in the stream is just ridiculous, dude. Rashdam, you're saying, in my opinion, Microsoft's playing chess and Sony's playing checkers. If they get complacent and stick to the same old, Microsoft can pass them in the future. Well, I'm not so sure that I agree with that. I don't think there's any denying that Microsoft has the money and just the pure, I guess you could say, like, monetary strength to make big things happen that could threaten Sony. But I think Sony, like, what people fail to, I think, understand is that Sony can react at any moment if they feel the need to. And it's like I said before, this idea that Sony needs to overnight just make their own version of Game Pass, they're not going to do that. Like, I want you guys to understand, Sony will not make their own version of Game Pass until their games stop selling, until they stop making absolute bank off of their current business model. It's that simple. I'm not saying that you as a consumer need to accept that and be like, I'm okay with that. I'm not saying that. As a PlayStation fan who likes Sony's games, I'm okay with that. I'm not saying you need to be okay with it. But what we need to understand, honestly, is that Sony will not budge until they realize that, okay, what we have been doing, what we are doing is no longer working. Now we need to pivot and maybe take a page from Microsoft's book. I feel like in this case, as I've said ad nauseum now, with MLB, that's exactly what Sony should do. Take a page from Microsoft's book in this one instance to as a gesture of goodwill towards your fans. Okay? Do that. But for those out there thinking that, this not E3, but this summer, Sony, I could be wrong. I need to state that. I don't know what Sony's plans are, but I think it's extremely unlikely if you're sitting back thinking that Sony this summer is going to announce PlayStation's version of Game Pass and that all of their first-party games are going to launch day and date into this PlayStation version of Game Pass to compete with Xbox Game Pass. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. If Ratchet and Clank flops, if Horizon Forbidden West flops, if PS5 sales suddenly come to a crawl because everybody's migrating to Xbox, then you'll see that happen. But that's not what's happening. That's why I'm not saying we don't need to defend Sony's money, right? Like, we don't need to defend the amount of money Sony's making, but what we can do is use logic and apply it and say, well, if you were Sony, if you're making absolute bank on what you're doing right now, and the numbers tell you we're not only in the green, we're breaking records, why do you suddenly get up and say, now we're going to do things completely different? That's not how that works. So that's why I'm saying that if you are one of these people thinking that Sony is over here panicking, they're feeling the heat, but they're not, dude. They're going to, just like Sony says, we're going to let the games do the talking for us, right? They're also going to let their revenue and their profit determine what their next move is. You may not like that, but that's the reality. I'm not sitting here saying that as a consumer, we need to just celebrate that, because I don't think that's worth celebrating. But I think when you understand this idea, it then becomes much more clear, like, okay, Sony's just going to continue to do what they're doing. You may see that as complacency, but again, put yourselves in that position. And I feel like if you do this, you have a better understanding. If you are doing what you've always done and it is working and you are breaking records, do you turn around? Like, if you're a sports athlete, right, and you're training a specific way, and this is the way you've been training your whole life or your whole career, and you are the one out here breaking records, right? Like, if you're Tom Brady, do you suddenly look at another QB and say, I'm going to train how they train, even though they're behind me, even though they have potential to surpass me one day, but I'm still on top and I'm still breaking records, but let me just change my course completely and how I train? That's not how that works. It's just not. Call it complacency, but if it's working, it's working. And there's nothing again, speak with your wallets. All these people who are talking about how PlayStation is done, they're in the gutter. Stop buying PlayStation games. Stop spending money on the PlayStation Store. That's how you send a message to Sony that you want them to start following Microsoft. Rashdam, you're saying, in my opinion, Microsoft's playing... I already read that, sorry. Richard Ledbetter, you're saying, Sony remains quiet as usual, but the difference so far this generation, Xbox is playing dirty, below the waist, hardball. Yeah, I think Sony kind of, lobbed this one up, I guess you could say, for Microsoft to just knock out of the park very easily. I'm missing some super chats here. I don't want to miss them because I appreciate all the super chats, guys. You really bring in a lot of interesting stuff to the table. Sir Speaks a Lot, you're saying, sorry I'm late, had some business to take care of. See, they wouldn't give up the feet, so I needed to educate them. Feel me, MBG? Is that a threat, Sir Speaks a Lot? I'm getting tired of these threats. I'm getting tired of these weekly threats. No, but thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad you could make it. Let me see what else you guys are saying. So we have Alentius Returns. You're saying your argument is that Sony doesn't have to do anything because they have games, but that is betting that 23 studios are going to fail. That's a risky bet. No. See, that's the thing. I'm not saying that in order for Sony's games to succeed and continue to sell well, and for Sony's business model in particular to succeed, that means Microsoft's 23 studios need to fail. No, even if half those studios produce really good, competent games, again, both business models can exist. At least that's what the data says now. Alanxious Returns, okay? It's not a matter of Microsoft failing. It's clear Microsoft is making a comeback in multiple ways. But the idea that Sony is going to suddenly collapse and just go down in flames because Microsoft is finding their own way to succeed, I'm not saying that can't happen, because it can. But right now, there are no signs that is happening. There are, like, the PS5 is selling like crazy, Every time there's a unit available, it goes just like that. And Sony is continuing to sell millions upon millions of games. That's the fact of the matter. So if Sony looks at their business model and they say, this works for us and we're fine, and then Microsoft says, well, what we're doing is working for us and we're fine, then what do you know? Two separate business models can exist and you can go to each one at will and you can decide which one works best for you. That's what we're starting to see. In the long run, when these 23 studios start producing game after game after game, if Sony's studios start to falter maybe, or maybe people really start to get fed up, again, speaking with their wallets, then you're going to see Sony pivot. Then you're going to see Sony shift. Guys, do me a favor. We have almost 1,000 people here watching. Please hit that like button to help the podcast out. It really helps out more than you know. We should at least at this point be able to easily surpass 500, 600 likes. I'm going to request this because, believe it or not, part of YouTube's algorithm, they look for likes. That's what helps push these videos out. And I would like to grow this podcast. I would like to grow the channel. So please do me a big favor. If you could do anything for this podcast, hit that like button. I'd really, really appreciate that. Again, we should very easily be able to surpass 500 likes. No problem. D-Doc, you're saying Jim Ryan, more like Jim Crine. Am I doing it right? Yeah, dude. I mean, you see a lot of people being like, Jim Ryan's got to go. He's got to go. Like, guys, look, I'm not going to lie. Jim Ryan does not seem like the type of individual to me that is playing games every night, that is super in touch with the hardcore gaming community. But one thing I think we do need to give Jim Ryan a little bit of credit for is he mostly, and I'm not going to say 100%, but he seems to understand the product. And that is important. A lot of people are saying he's the new Don Matrick. Guys, come on. Like, it's a little bit early to be drawing, coming to these conclusions. I do understand, based off of some of the announcements and some, the way Jim Ryan talked about, preserving old games, like who would want to play that? I get that, like, very dumb thing to say. Please show more respect to your heritage, to your lineage, to your legacy. That at least show the respect. You know what I mean? Like, just, you don't have to make it sound like people who play old games are just like, what's wrong with you? Who wants to go back and play Metal Gear Solid 2 on, a PS2 version of that? Come on. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Who wants to go back and play Silent Hill 1? Like, plenty of people do. Not a lot of people, but there are people who do. Like, you don't have to actively disrespect them, Also, with the whole PlayStation Store closure thing, again, Sony's not handling this well. Why do you have to do it so soon? Why don't you give people more time? Extend it by 6 months. You're Sony. You're a billion-dollar corporation. You can afford to do that. Give developers more warning. You know what I mean? Make sure every developer who's developing a game for the Vita knows for sure that this is happening. It's just, it is a little bit frustrating. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I care, because I don't. I'm not going to sit here and play old games. There's also nothing wrong with somebody who wants to play old games. I'm just saying, man, like, people, they get too caught up in the fantasy talk, in the, Freud San, you're saying, damn, Sony's doing work for Microsoft. They're even giving games to the competition so their users can have some quality games. I mean, look, I'm going to start talking about Sony's response, all right? Because that's what I titled this podcast. That's a big, Sir Speaks, like saying tons of spammers here, MBG, too many to count. Yeah, I can't do anything about it, man. That's why I can really only pay attention to, I can only pay attention to the super chats as of right now. But let me shift to talking about Sony's response. All right. I feel as though I've made it clear at this point, but I'm going to emphasize it once more because people like to pretend that, I'm not saying these things, or I guess what I say just goes in one ear and out the other, or right over their head. I want it to be clear that I, as a PlayStation fan, as somebody who is heavily invested in the PlayStation ecosystem, it's my preferred platform, it's where I prefer to play. I, as someone, Rashdam, you're saying I missed your first super chat. Sorry, man, it's so hard to keep up. Rashdam. No, dude, okay. Rashdam, you said, but for a sports game, it makes more sense to have it in Game Pass than to pay $70 since they come out every year. I would rather pay $15 than pay $70. Yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, man, you do bring up a good point. The fact that it is a sports game, the fact that, we are kind of seeing, we see the game every year. It's like a roster update with some minor improvements. I can understand why. Honestly, one of the smartest moves Microsoft made is get as many sports games into Game Pass as you can. I'm not going to lie. Like, we've been saying for a long time that these companies need to make these sports games basically like a subscription service in and of itself, where you get roster updates and improvements over time. Make it a game as a service. Don't sell it for full price every year. The smartest thing Microsoft is doing right now is taking all these sports games and putting them in the Game Pass and doing it for us. Got to give them credit there, man. That is proactive. That is extremely pro-consumer. Props to Microsoft for doing that. And the fact that MLB Show is part of that, that is a good thing. Again, Microsoft is actively creating options, and I cannot fault them for that. This is why I'm saying, if you're somebody who doesn't want to buy your game, there you go. There's Microsoft giving you another option to experience this game. I cannot fault them for that. All right? There's nothing wrong with that. But let me shift over here and talk to you about Sony's response, okay? What is Sony's response? Alencius, you're saying Sony will only put out one God of War or Uncharted in a single generation. Those games are great, but if Microsoft has 23 studios and is buying more, can Sony keep up? Well, again, I have to remind you, Alencius, that Sony is actively doubling the size of their first-party studios. One of the things they also made sure to do with the PlayStation 5 is make it as easy to develop for as possible and streamline game development. So with all of that in mind, we should see more than one game per studio. Also, the foundation was laid out in the PS4 generation. So games like Ghost of Tsushima you're gonna see Ghost of Tsushima 2, 3, maybe even 4. And the foundation for what that game is, Ghost of Tsushima, is already there. That's what Sucker Punch spent 7 years working on. Same thing with the God of War soft reboot. Same thing with a game like Horizon Zero Dawn. Okay, so that's just, kind of how it is. We should see more. I mean, it'll be interesting to see the cadence at which these games release from both sides, because the idea is, 23 first-party studios. Microsoft's going to be boom, 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 like every month or two with a new game potentially. Sony might be a little bit longer, but we do have to understand Sony is also leveraging second-party relationships with like Square Enix and other companies. And for example, we're getting Returnal this month, which is a second-party game, but it may as well be a first-party game. It may as well be, right? We're getting Returnal. And then in May, we're getting Deathloop. These are both, one's a second-party relationship. The other is a third-party timed exclusive deal. Sony is finding a way, okay? Sony is finding a way to consistently deliver games. I think Microsoft is going to have a lot of games that they deliver as well, but, there's no doubt, like, once Microsoft gets on a roll, they're going to be on a roll. The question is, how good are these games going to be? Well, we have to wait to see about that. Thank you, Mac, for the $1 donation. All right, I keep getting sidetracked here. Guys, one more time, hit that like button. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but come on, we're at 438 likes, almost 1,000 people. We can definitely do 500 likes. I'd really appreciate that. Let's talk about Sony's response. Now, I am claiming that Sony's response is obvious. Now, I want to make it clear that I'm not saying anything definitively because I do not have any inside track. I don't know who does at this point. Who knows what Sony's doing? Because we haven't heard anything. No leaks, no rumors, no nothing. Sony has been playing everything extremely close to the chest. So when I say that Sony's response is obvious, I say that kind of looking at what we've seen so far. In my opinion, Sony's response to everything that has been going on, everything that is currently going on right now, is they're going to stay the course. They're not going to budge. They're not going to move. Because what Sony does best is they go quiet, and sometimes, they can lose the momentum. And I think what we're seeing now is Sony is losing the momentum. They have. As somebody who follows PlayStation like closely, I've been following them for a long time now. And as somebody who rode the PS5 hype wave, okay, I can tell you Sony has lost a massive amount of momentum this year. That doesn't mean that I'm enjoying my PS5 any less. That doesn't mean I'm any less excited for games like Returnal that I'm excited to play, right? But even I, as a PlayStation fan, can acknowledge Sony has dropped the momentum ball, and they gave it to Microsoft, and Microsoft is running right now, dude. They're running. They're sprinting. However, that metaphor is implying that Sony is the one that's behind, or is behind. Microsoft is catching up. That's the point. Momentum-wise, mind share-wise, you're saying MVG letting the Xbox get them. No, I'm not. Dude, from a public perception, if you're paying attention to the conversations, which a lot of people are not, a lot of people are out there saying, I want to buy a damn PS5, and they're not in forums. They're not watching podcasts. They're not part of comment sections. They're not reading the comments. They just want a damn PS5. Same thing with people who just want an Xbox. But right now, Xbox, they have the momentum. So Sony's response, and I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure this is what's going to happen. Sony's response is going to be what it always has been. I want you to look closely at the way Sony has been operating the past couple of years, especially with the transition into the PlayStation 5 generation. If there was ever a time for Sony to really dramatically change their approach to their business model, it would have been made clear between the transition of the PS4 generation and the PS5. And in some ways they have, putting some PlayStation 4 games like Days Gone and probably more. I'm sure God of War is going to go to PC. Some people don't want to hear that. It's going to happen. God of War is going to go to PC. Not the next one, but God of War 2018 and more. They are making some changes. We see that with Horizon and these games going to PC. And we're seeing positive changes. Sony putting more of an emphasis on let's deliver a even better value, a much better value with PlayStation Plus. But all in all, their overarching, kind of like mainstay, like the backbone, the foundation of their business model is not changing. Okay, it hasn't changed. We're seeing Returnal being promoted as a AAA title that will be sold at a AAA price. We're seeing Deathloop, which is treated like a AAA third-party exclusive. We're seeing Ratchet & Clank, another full-blown AAA title. And we're seeing bigger games like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok teased out. In my opinion, it's very obvious what Sony's response is. Sony's response is, we're going to continue to do what we do best. And if somehow this June, I don't know when Sony's next event's going to be. I'm assuming Sony's next event will be outside of E3. I think it's clear that Sony wants nothing to do with E3 anymore. I think their next event is going to be sometime in June. I don't know if they're going to call it the future of gaming. Maybe that's what they'll call it. They'll call it something. And this is where Sony is going to bring the heat. Okay? And I think we should pay very close attention to just how much heat Sony plans on bringing. People wonder why. People wonder why Sony has been making a string of negative announcements. Or maybe, I guess we could say, not so ideal announcements. Let's look at the state of play that Sony had. Let's be honest, it wasn't as big as people were hoping. I thought it was fine. A lot of people hated it. All right. They announced they're partnering with Jade Raymond for their next game with Haven Studio. Could be huge. Could be huge. It's in the early days. It's going to take many years before we see anything come of that. Sony announces that they bought Evo. Okay. Not sure what to make of that. Could mean big things in the future, maybe, in terms of how Sony plans to integrate PlayStation with esports. Maybe. We don't know. Other than that, Sony has just been making these announcements that PlayStation fans are not going to get excited about. No one's going to get excited about. Who's going to, are we supposed to come out here and be excited and accept, Sony is announcing that Japan Studio is being shrunk, that it's being reduced to just Team Asobi? No, that sucks. That sucks. It's just the reality. It's not going to make me be like, I'm done with PlayStation. I'm throwing my PlayStation out the window. No, but it sucks, and it is a little bit concerning. They come out. Are we supposed to celebrate that? They're closing the PS3, PSP, and PS Vita store? No. For some people, that really sucks. Me personally, it doesn't affect me at all, but I understand. Again, not something to celebrate. While Sony's doing all of this, Microsoft is gaining the momentum with just positive announcement after. I mean, the momentum really swung in Microsoft's favor with the Bethesda talk and event they had, where Bill basically made it clear, yeah, these games are going to be exclusive. That's when the momentum really shifted. And ever since then, Microsoft's just been making positive announcement after positive announcement after positive announcement, gaining all this momentum, right? And then Sony is still being quiet. And when they do talk, the news is not ideal. Nothing overly exciting. Yeah, we have some solid PlayStation Plus months. This Play at Home initiative, games getting updates like Ratchet and Clank 60 FPS, Spider-Man, that's great. But in my opinion, it has become painfully obvious that Sony is going to bring the heat. They are saving it. I know that there are Xbox fans that are feeling really good right now, man. They are on cloud 9, and that's fine. Dude, Xbox fans have a ton to be excited about. Their future's looking brighter than ever. But for the Xbox fans who are celebrating as if, like the coffin dance, right? Except now, instead of it being the Xbox Series X, it's PlayStation as a brand. I'm going to tell you guys to maybe don't go in that direction, okay? Don't go in the direction that PlayStation's done. PlayStation's finished. Jim Ryan is the new Dimetric, because Sony's going to bring the heat this year and next year and the year after that. Right now, Sony couldn't sell you a PS5 if they wanted to, okay? Sony, their whole plan of transitioning into the next gen the way that they wanted to, it's been thrown completely off. That's why you're most likely going to see Sony be forced to release games, some of their first-party games, on the PS4 as well as PS5 longer than we would want them to. Because as long as there is a massive global semiconductor shortage, this is the problem that Sony and Microsoft are facing. But because of the direction that Microsoft took, they have more options. Microsoft is not just behind a console the way Sony is. So I'm just going to tell you right now, guys, Sony's response is obvious because they're going to do what they've always done. Bring the heat. Sure, Sony may be, they may be a little bit closer to the corner, I guess you could say, than maybe they were previously. They've lost a lot of momentum. I told you that. But you really think they're not going to get it back? You really think that Sony doesn't have big plans for the games they're going to show and why you're going to want to go get a PS5? I'm telling you, man, if that's really what you believe, by all means, believe that. If you really believe that, Sony's on the ropes and their business model's collapsing, and their games are not going to sell, or even putting the sales aside, their games are not going to be good anymore, and they're not going to be exciting. And if you also think that Sony is just only going to produce one-and-done single-player games, that's fine. Continue to underestimate, because you're going to see how quickly the pendulum swings back and forth. Just as quickly as the pendulum swung now in Microsoft's favor, it's going to swing back. That's how these things go, and that's good. That's called competition. Anyway, we have Cook X84. You're saying, what you mean Sony wants to distance themselves from E3? That bites. Well, I mean, let's be honest, man. Sony has actively removed themselves from E3 the last 2 years that E3 was actually a thing, before the whole pandemic hit, right? So, I mean, come on, dude. Like, they're doing their own event. They might come back. We don't know, but I don't think they're going to. Darren, you're saying with third-party devs getting snatched up, Sony's releasing 2 to 4 exclusives a year means fans won't have anything to play for 8 to 9 months out of the year. Yeah, so I don't know where that 2 to 4 exclusives a year is coming from, Darren, honestly speaking, because okay, so from the time the PS5 launched, all right, let's do some counting here. From the time the PS5 launched, that was early November, so November 2020. All right, now it depends if you're just counting first-party studios, maybe, but I'm not just counting first-party. I'm counting first-party, second-party exclusive deals, and third-party exclusive deals. So far we had also. I mean, I don't know if should I count the smaller games? Should I count Astrobot? I'm going to count Astrobot. Astrobot's a great game. So we have Astrobot, Sackboy Big Adventure, Demon Souls, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Godfall, and I'm not saying Godfall's a great game, but it's a game nonetheless. Godfall. So that's 5 games right there at the launch of the PS5. And we add Destruction All-Stars. Again, I'm not saying it's the best game. Then we're getting Returnal. Then we're getting Deathloop. Then we're getting Ratchet and Clank. We don't really know much beyond that. We know we're getting Kenna Bridge of Spirits. That's 10 games. That's 10 games within the first 6 to 8 months of the PS5 being out. Bug Snacks as well. There's that. Oddworld Soulstorm, there's that, Sifu. And then keep the biggest game I probably talked about in counting these, Ghostwire Tokyo. The biggest game I've talked about so far is probably Ratchet and Clank. But then we're most likely going to have Horizon Forbidden West as well. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like the Pathless, there's another one. So I'm not the little devil inside. See, this is what I'm saying, is that Sony is doing the work. Goodbye, Volcano High. Again, I'm not saying you have to be excited, but just as, look, when I talk to Xbox fans, okay, and I say, yeah, Final Fantasy 16, I don't know if that's coming out in the next year though, but Solar Ash, when I talk to Xbox fans and I ask them to list all of these games that Xbox is getting over the course of 2021 within the next year, basically from launch till maybe, this November coming up, they list all of these games that are not first-party games that a lot of them I've never heard of, and I'm not saying that's a problem. Like, if you are excited for those games, that's a game that, okay, what's a game that's coming up for Microsoft's second Extinction? I think it's like a Left 4 Dead style dinosaur game. Actually sounds pretty cool. I think that's launching in the Game Pass. I think that's a timed console exclusive for Xbox. I've seen people use that in their lists. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, really? Really? No, dude, if you're excited for that game, go play that game. But if you're going to count that game as like, this is what Microsoft's bringing to the table, then you better believe, yes, Stalker, you better believe I'm going to talk about other games that Sony's bringing to the table as well. We're not just talking about first party. That's just the reality of it, the Medium came out, right? Like, a lot of people were telling me, oh, the Medium is going to be like the first big Xbox game. I mean, look, nothing against Blooper Team, nothing against anybody who enjoyed that game. Was it really? Was it really the first big Xbox game? I don't think so. All right. And that's okay, because it doesn't need to be. We know Microsoft has the games cooking. We'll just have to see how it's about the execution. This is where I'm saying, like, I do not understand the rhetoric. I do not understand, like, the only valid point. There's really only two valid points that I've seen brought up. Three. I know that sounds like a lot, but there are three valid points that I've seen brought up that I can entertain as a PlayStation fan who's invested. I can entertain and maybe even agree with. First, value proposition. This is the biggest point of contention that has been brought up recently. I'm not going to get into it again because we already talked about it with MLB, where it's like, is Sony going to do anything? Microsoft is outdoing them in terms of value with one of their own games. Is Sony going to do anything? Yeah, that's a point of contention. That's a valid point. Two, Japan. What is Sony doing with Japan Studio? Are they caring less about their Japanese culture and just the history there with PlayStation? Valid concern. After seeing all of these developers, talent just leave Japan Studio. I saw Gavin Moore, man. He was like, the lead producer or something on Demon's Souls. Very sad post where he said after working 24 years with Japan Studio, he had to say goodbye. Like, that's just sad, man. Like, why? Sony, why? Why are you doing that? Second valid point, okay? Third, how Sony's handling their legacy games. What is your plan? What is your plan? Not saying you have to care about it. If you don't care about old games, you don't care about old games. What's your plan? Right? Are you going to do anything? Are you just going to say goodbye? Is Jim Ryan, being the head of PlayStation, he doesn't care about old games. He asks, why would anybody play them? Is he saying, whatever, we don't care. Goodbye. PS4 and onward is all we care about. These are all valid concerns. Anything outside of that usually veers in the territory that becomes ridiculous, which is why I don't entertain it. I do entertain it here on the podcast because it brings some entertainment value. But, Ethan, you're saying Xbox has had the same 3 IP for decades, Halo, Forza, Gears. They don't have the creative power Sony does. I agree. I think that I think one of the biggest reasons Microsoft bought Bethesda was because they needed to. I've been saying, they needed to. I mean, Microsoft, they really have shown over the years that they just don't have the same type of creativity that Sony does in a lot of ways. What was it? Steve Jobs, I think I referenced this last week, but it's funny. He was like, what did Steve Jobs say about how like Microsoft has they like have no taste or whatever, something like that. It was really funny. And it's like, in a way, I mean, don't get me wrong, dude. Like, I love Forza Horizon. It's a great game. But, you know, that game needs to have something else outside of Halo and Gears surrounding it. And that's going to come. That's why they bought Bethesda. That's why they bought Playground Games and said, please make Fable. You know, that's why they started the initiative. So it's not like they're not going to come eventually. But I do agree. Like, Sony, from a creative standpoint, they've just been doing it better, in my opinion. Not saying you have to agree with that, but that's how I feel. Fantasy Gamer, you're saying Returnal, April 30th. Deathloop, May 21st. Final Fantasy VII Integrate, June 10th. Ratchet & Clank, June 11th. Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, August 24th. Oddworld, April 6th. All day and date, no day/dates for Xbox. I mean, yeah, dude, for that list of games you just gave me, there's going to be an Xbox fan who lists all of these other games that apparently are coming to Xbox as timed exclusives or full exclusives or whatever. Again, like, I don't know what these games are. I feel like with the whole MLB thing, it's just made it so easy for Xbox fanboys, the toxic fanboys. I'm not talking about Xbox fans who just like the platform. The toxic fanboys who feel vindicated now. You know, people make it sound like I've done nothing but crap on Xbox. Let me ask you, when's the last time I crapped on Xbox? I mean, truly, like, really went in on them, talked mad shit on them. When? Because I can tell you when. It was when both of these consoles first launched, and I made sure to let everybody know that the Xbox Series X's 12 teraflops of power, the Tower of Power that was supposed to create a wide delta between how games would look and perform on the PS5 versus the Series X, I was sure to let everybody know. Turns out maybe you've been duped a little bit, because a lot of games are actually, the advantage, however slight it may be, is actually falling in favor on the PlayStation 5. That was the last time I shit not on Xbox itself. Well, yeah, I shit on their marketing campaign because I'm like, what the hell? But I shit on the toxic Xbox fanboys who constantly, and still do, run with that. I get shit on because it's like, dude, all you do is talk about the SSD. I'm just relaying what developers are saying about the PS5's SSD, goddammit. Like, I'm not out, I'm saying I think it can change game development in the long run, but here's what developers are saying. And people come at me for that. I'm like, please take your crap and project it towards these guys who are still talking about tools and features and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, games look and run fine on the PS5. That's all I'm saying. Fernando, you're saying the main thing that disappoints me is that Microsoft has exceeded Sony is in Game Pass and backwards compatibility. Xbox games back on the OG Xbox. And I understand that, Fernando. Like, that's the thing, man. Like, PlayStation fans, you do have a responsibility. And that responsibility is if you care about the way PlayStation is handling backwards compatibility and you're bothered by it, you need to voice that. You need to find a way to voice that. All these people, MBG about to cry. Okay, I get it. I can't win. If I express myself, I know I'm crying. That's just how it works. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you being here. Regardless, I mean, I know that there's a lot of people who don't appreciate what I do here, but keep in mind, you being here, you're helping the podcast, you're helping the channel grow, and you're helping spread, my word out there. So I do appreciate that. Even if you, I'm not even going to say this because I'm going to give you a little insider. I was going to give you a little insider tip about how you could be helping me out without even knowing it, but I'm not going to. So thank you. But, I get so heated like that because I see this stuff all the time. Like, I really do. I see it thrown my way literally all the time where it's like, oh, all you do is crap on Xbox. And, I will admit, like, I'm not the first person out here to make positive Xbox videos. Okay? That's just the truth. It's just, I'm a PlayStation-centric channel. It's why, when there's multiple Xbox-centric channels out there that thrive on positive Xbox news, Why would I come out here and be like, hey guys, let me tell you why Game Pass is the best value in gaming when I don't use Game Pass? You see what I'm saying? Like, why would I do that? And it's just, people are like, dude, you don't give Xbox credit. You're not listening. You're not paying attention. And you look like a jackass. You really do. Because if you listen and you pay attention to what I say, you'll know these past couple months, dude, I've been doing nothing but giving Xbox credit. So I feel like I have to say that because it's quite shocking, the pushback I see sometimes. Xbox fans are desperate people. Xbox Series sad. I mean, look, it's not necessary for it to veer off into that territory. Okay, it's really not. At this point, I think you're perfectly fine. You're perfectly fine if you want to buy an Xbox over a PlayStation. But if you're somebody who, look, there are those who want to win, and there are those who want to enjoy games. Okay. When I sit here and I say, I'm pretty sure Sony's response is they're going to bring the heat. That's not me saying Sony's going to win. Sony's going to kick Xbox's teeth down their throat and they're going to dunk all over these Xbox fanboys. No. The only group of gamers that gets under my skin are the hardcore Xbox fanboys who try to pretend that, oh, we love gaming. We love all of gaming. We're the nicest gamers. Be nice. Be nice. But in reality, it's like you're just an asshole and you're just doing a bad job hiding that. You know what I mean? Like, and that's that's what I don't like. So, maybe people see me as an asshole. Maybe people see me that way, and that's fine because I'm not sitting here trying to make it sound like I'm the nicest guy in the world or, I love all games and it's all about being the good guy and the nice guy. Like, I am who I am, That's the only problem I have with people because there's a lot of people who act like that. That's just human nature. I get it. But it's like, Jesus Christ, why can't people see through this? By the way, happy Easter to everybody. Forgot to say that. Anyway, guys, so I guess what this all ultimately comes down to is that there is a lot going against PlayStation right now. And I understand that there's a lot of people who are not thrilled about some of the things Sony's doing. And I'm not here to say that you should be thrilled. I guess I'm just saying that you should try to maybe, understand a little bit more about what's going on, really. Like, again, if you want Sony to do more with backwards compatibility, make it known. Make it known. Make people know that, not just people, but try your best to let Sony know we want this. If you want them to not get away from Japan, right? I don't think they're fully getting away from Japan, but you want to see more done, try to let them know. It's your responsibility to, and let them know with your wallet. If you have a problem with the way PlayStation is doing things, don't buy their stuff. That's the only suggestion I can give you. Like, people wonder why, like Nintendo, why they don't budge. Nintendo doesn't move, dude. They are a rock because people keep buying their shit. You can cry all day, every day. People are still buying their stuff. You're like that dude standing outside the store, the only dude with like the picket sign. Meanwhile, everybody's just in and out all day long. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care. All right. So I'm just saying that's how it is, man. Until there's a mass exodus, that's just the way it's going to be. Joshua, you're saying great to see your podcast back to 1,000 plus viewers, MBG. Yeah, it is nice. I don't know if maybe because it's Easter and more people are home, but hey, I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody who's hanging out with me right now. Devakin, you're saying I respect MBG. He knows Xbox isn't playing this gen. Yeah, that's the thing, dude. It's like I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Xbox is a joke. I mean, dude, back in like 2017 when they were releasing Crackdown 3 alongside the One X, yeah, I thought they were a joke. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? Looking at what they're doing now, they're bringing the heat, man. They're bringing the heat, and it is good. I've tried to explain this. This isn't a bad thing. As somebody who's mainly invested in PlayStation, I'm glad, genuinely glad to see that Xbox is serious about bringing the heat to Sony this time, because any chance that Sony's going to get complacent, this is why I'm not sitting back saying it's doom and gloom. Like, oh man, I guess Sony's going to have a terrible year. they're not going to respond to this at all. Like, no, I'm pretty sure Sony's going to try to bring the heat because of this. Like, if anything, all of this bad press that that they're getting right now, maybe it's incentivizing them. Maybe they need to go a little bit bigger with their next event. They really need to wow people. Maybe they do need to do something bigger than they were planning. That's good, man. James Baker, you're saying if Microsoft starts going after more third-party games on Game Pass day one, how many would it take a year that would outweigh first-party exclusives? Well, it wouldn't necessarily outweigh first-party exclusives. I think that's a good question because there's no doubt that tell MBG we need a Rant Juice coffee mug. I've been trying. Yeah, I guess we should get a Rant Juice coffee mug. I just have this plain red, nothing special. So maybe we should get that Rant Juice coffee mug, huh? But I don't think it's necessarily the amount of games that Microsoft would have to pay to get onto Game Pass, like AAA games, big games like Outriders. Worst case scenario for me is I'm not going to get rid of my PlayStation and stop gaming on my PlayStation. Again, I am invested in the ecosystem, but there's a chance that, like if Microsoft puts enough big AAA games on their, service day and date, I'll just subscribe to it and try them out when I eventually get a Series X, but I don't think there's anything Xbox can do unless Sony stops making good games. Like they just abandon like high quality AAA single player exclusives and they stop delivering them. I don't think there's anything that will basically rip me away from the PlayStation ecosystem. I've seen a lot of people lately being like, "Oh, Sony doesn't care about game preservation. I'm getting rid of my PlayStation. I'm switching." A lot of people saying, "Oh, look at what they did with MLB. I'm switching." It's like, okay, like I really can't tell if you're just basically being, you're just spreading a bunch of hyperbole that's not real on the internet by just typing this out and then doing nothing afterwards, because it's very easy to do that. It's very easy. I could type messages out all day, selling my PS5. I'm done. Bye, Sony. See ya. And then boot up my PlayStation 5 and start gaming on it. You know what I mean? Or my PlayStation 5 doesn't go anywhere. I still buy Sony games. A lot of that's happening right now, and people don't realize that. There are people who, when they see people saying this, are like, "Oh man, people are starting to get rid of their PlayStation." It's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Like I saw this on my I put out, I tweet out my videos every day. Every time I put out a video, I put a tweet with it. And this one guy, I actually want to see if I can find it. I want to read it because I think it's pretty interesting. I find it comical because this is how prevalent it actually is. This is how people are talking. I'll get to that in a second. I want to read some of these super chats before I lose track. Let me see. So, True Witty, you're saying you're on camera this time, MBG. Happy Easter. God bless. Happy Easter to you too, man. I'm glad you could be here. Chris B, you're saying, well, Microsoft has made this phrase a joke. Sony fans should wait until E3 this season. The heat is coming. Yeah, I mean, dude, this is where I'm giving Microsoft credit. Microsoft's had a bunch of stuff lined up where they're like, look, the first half of 2021, we're going in hard. And I don't know if Sony expected that or not, but good on them, Meanwhile, Sony's, I think, taking a seat, and they'll be like, when we're ready, we're going to show up when we're ready. We see True Witty once again. You're saying this might push Sony to do native legacy backwards compatibility. I mean, you have to imagine Sony's working on something, right? It's hard to say. With Jim Ryan at the helm, I mean, honestly speaking, with the way he talked about old games before, it wouldn't surprise me if Sony really is just like, yeah, we only care about PS4 and onward. And basically any games that Sony deems like worthy of preserving, they might just, okay, how about this? Buy Blue Point Games and literally have them remake and remaster every single legacy PlayStation game. Let's just do that, right? I mean, that's unrealistic, but, I feel like that's kind of the attitude Sony may have right now, where it's like, look at what they did with Demon's Souls. Sony may look at it as like, we don't care about preserving the original Demon's Souls because we have Demon's Souls Remake. Not everybody likes that. Not everybody wants to hear that, but that just might be the reality of it. I do think that sucks. I don't see what's wrong with just somebody wants to play older Demon Souls, why is that like that shouldn't be a problem? But, you know, it is what it is. Tyson Webb, you're saying, when do you think we will start seeing games roll out running on Unreal Engine 5? It's hard to say, man. I want to say probably by 2022. There's no doubt this generation is off to possibly the slowest start that we've seen, thanks to the global pandemic and how it's affecting game developers. But more importantly, not even just game developers, how it's affecting these consoles. And these consoles, I'm telling you, if Sony and Microsoft were able to produce way more consoles, like double the amount, they would have sold them all by now. They would have sold them all. And it's a shame to see a wrench thrown into this current generation. But I guess it's better that it happens early rather than later. And I think that it's really going to pick up later on. And I would suspect that Unreal Engine 5 will probably start to be more heavily utilized in 2022. That's my assumption. It could come before that, but that's my expectation. And I'm excited to see what they're able to do. Solid Snake, thank you so much for the $20 donation, man. Really appreciate that. You're saying Sony isn't going to respond to Game Pass yet. They want to see what profits it will bring in. If Sony puts all their games on a service, they could potentially lose more money than they gain. Sony will show their hand soon. Exactly, Solid Snake. I appreciate that because that's eloquently put. I've been trying to explain that just in a much more extended manner. Sony, like you said, Sony's going to show their hand soon. Sony has cards to play, just like Microsoft does, and I think that people will be pleasantly surprised at some of the cards Sony ends up playing. So, yeah, I really appreciate that, man. Appreciate all the support you guys are showing. Absolutely incredible. Once again, hate to sound like a broken record. Hit that like button, guys. We crushed it. We're over 600 likes. Let's see if we can get to 700, maybe even beyond that. I'd really, really appreciate that. And so, I guess I just kind of want to talk about really quick my expectations, I guess we could say, I feel like there was something I was talking about. Okay. Yeah. See, this is where I get derailed all the time. Okay. So I'm looking at my Twitter. I put out a video yesterday. Okay. And I tweeted it out. And I said, developer says he believes that the PS5's SSD will be the biggest overall game changer in the next few years. PS5 sales are starting to pick up in Japan. Sony is seemingly screwing over some PlayStation Vita developers, unfortunately. And Resident Evil 8 supports PS5's activities feature. That's the tweet with my video link. And so there was this one person, and I always see, this is where like this is where you need to learn, and I'm sure most of us do, when we're existing in a bubble, right? So this person says, damn, I gotta say, Sony is really behind Xbox right now. I might sell my PS5 and go Xbox this gen. Okay? That comment got 10 upvotes. I think that's the most upvoted comment underneath my video. And the person below him says, as of right now, it's the better choice. A lot of negative news hitting Sony lately. Who cares about sales? I don't make that money, and it doesn't save me money. You know what does save me money? Game Pass. That sounds like an advertisement. Game Pass. Whether you like it or not, there's a financial incentive to leave. And he continues by saying, as of right now, Jim Ryan has been quiet about the future of PlayStation. They've been working on an old business model. On the other hand, Phil Spencer is involved with the community. That community is roaring louder on Twitter every day with enthusiasm, whether you like it or not. Do you see what I'm talking about? The bubble here. What does anything that these two individuals say? Like, this is one person who's getting 10 upvotes claiming he's thinking about selling his PS5. And you know what I told him? And I was just being honest. I said, come back to this tweet 3 months from now. You will either regret selling your PS5 or you will feel happy that you didn't. First of all, I'm not sure why you would sell your PS5, okay? I mean, I guess I could understand you make a lot of money because they're hard to come by now. But, dude, if you bought a PS5 and you're thinking about selling it because of what's going on right now, look, do what you want. I think you're out of your mind. Okay? I think you're out of your damn mind if you're selling your PS5 right now because of this. I think it's crazy that people are looking. This is what I'm talking about, the pendulum swinging and the momentum. I think it's crazy that people are looking at the conversations and they're allowing that to live in their head and ultimately make the decision for them. Guys, take a step back. Honestly, take a step back. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anybody. Listen to yourself. Look at what is on offer on both sides, okay? If you are somebody who didn't invest in one of these consoles already, or you're thinking about it in the future, or you're still trying to, but you can't decide, get back, just take a step back, look at what's on offer, look at what will be coming potentially over the next couple of years, and then decide, okay? It's okay. It's okay if you want to get an Xbox. It's okay if you want to subscribe to Game Pass. It's also okay if you want to buy a PS5 and buy Returnal at launch or buy Ratchet and Clank. It's okay, guys. Like, this is what I'm talking about, man, where it's like, I don't understand why. I mean, I guess I get it. Like, my tweet that I guess what I'm trying to say is my tweet that I put out with my video had nothing to do with Xbox at all. And that's the type of response I see. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, it's the fear mongering, man. It's this idea that Xbox is finally doing some good stuff, and maybe Sony's not at this current moment. I mean, I don't want to say they're not doing anything good, but like, they're just not as loud. They're not as communicative, right? And suddenly it's like, what's PlayStation? PlayStation sucks? Oh yeah, PlayStation sucks. Like, what is happening? It's so weird, dude. It's really weird. I don't know. I live in a bubble as well, guys. I'm here on the internet. I'm with you. You know, we're here in this bubble. So I understand that there's a filter that everything passes through to where what I see is not reality sometimes. And sometimes I'm susceptible to it. Gets in my head and I'm like, this isn't reality. Because I'll often find that I'm in these forums, I'm reading all this back and forth. And then when I step away from my phone, when I step away from my computer and I'm just living my life and I'm like, I'm going to go turn on my PS5 and play some games now. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, man. It's entertaining at the very least. I'll tell you what. Zach saying, I think people forget how big Microsoft is compared to Sony. Microsoft can eat the cost for Game Pass in early stages and play the long game. They want Game Pass to be the Netflix of gaming. Yeah, dude, in my opinion, that's the biggest thing Sony should fear and they have to contend with is Microsoft's wallet, is the amount of money Microsoft has. Because you are right, dude. Microsoft could eat Sony like 15 times over when it comes to worth, right? Like buying them and eating them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When it comes to the amount of money they have. I think this is the big thing that Sony, and this is where Sony will be forced to play to their strengths and to get creative. Guys, I know this may sound crazy. I'm glad it's not the other way around. Believe it or not, I wouldn't have wanted Sony to buy Bethesda. Well, because I'm not a big Bethesda fan, and that would have been crazy. And I would have been like, whoa. You know, I would be like, whoa, that's insane. Who saw that coming? Just like it happened to Microsoft. But something that exists within Sony is, yes, they are a multi-billion-dollar company, but they have to be much more careful about how they operate. Again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Look at what happened with the PS3. Sony was literally the king of the hill. And they got so arrogant. They got so complacent. They truly believed they were untouchable. And the second you believe you're untouchable, that's when you get kicked. 300 style, off the hill, off the mountain. That's exactly what happened to Sony. They were humbled immediately. But what did it force Sony to do? It forced them to be the best they could be with the next generation and also later with the PS3 generation, right? It forced them. Their back was against the wall. So people who are saying that Sony's back is against the wall right now and that Microsoft is kicking them into a corner, that is good. Because when Sony is cornered, that's when they bring their best to the table. I would much rather see what's happening right now. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't want to see Sony get to a point where like they don't have to fear Microsoft. Both can exist, like I said, but I'd much rather see Microsoft coming in as hard as they are with their wallet. Because that is, let's be honest, Microsoft tried to get creative, didn't work. So what did they do? Microsoft played to their strength, which is their bank account. And they're utilizing their biggest strength, their greatest asset. And that is good for Sony as well. That's good for PlayStation fans. We're going to see that. I don't want to lose track of these super chats. So we have Zach, you're saying, I think people forget how I read yours. Sorry. These things, dude, they jump all over the place. I apologize. Richard Ledbetter, showering right now, listening to Renting MBG. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. But wait, if you're showering right now, how did you just donate a super chat? I guess maybe your phone's waterproof. Vegeta Super Blue, you're saying MBG. I still don't have a PS5 yet. Love the MBG rant. Well, I'm glad, guys. I mean, I try not to be overly aggressive with my rants. It's just, I like to express my opinion. And there are some times where I'm just more ranty than others. And I don't want anybody to feel like negatively towards it. Like, I'm trying my best to just make it clear to everybody, like, there is a lot of stupid things being said. Like, a lot of very idiotic things being said right now and claimed. And I get that that's just the nature of the beast. I'm not saying that it's just Xbox fanboys. It's PlayStation fanboys as well. Ultimately, you just got to cut through it all and use logic, use rationale. It's not the hardest thing in the world to do. I promise you, it's not. And you can benefit greatly from it. So, let me see. Swizz 242, you're saying you give Sony exclusives too much credit. Small percent of gamers. Nah. Look, man, if you think I give Sony's exclusives too much credit, that's fine. You're entitled to that opinion, but that's your opinion. And I often look to the success that Sony's games find as a way to make it clear that, look, I'm not saying everybody loves Sony's games. I'm not saying every single Sony game is the best of the best, because that's just not the truth. But a large chunk of gamers, you may look at it as, Ghost of Tsushima launched in July of 2020, and we just found out a couple of weeks ago that it sold 6.5 million copies. Okay. So there are always those people that don't understand what success is in this industry, or what it has been and still is. They say, oh, well, that's not good. That's not good at all. There's like over 110 million PS4s out there. Surely they should be able to sell at least 25 million copies, 30 million copies. Dude, do you have any idea how ridiculous that sounds? Do you have any idea? So if you look at 6.5 million as a small percentage, it's not. Because if you knew how much money Sony was making off of selling that many copies of Ghost of Tsushima, you need to understand that in this industry, the idea of a game selling 1 million copies, let alone 6.5 or more, 1 million copies is a success. 2 million copies is a big success. 3 million or more is a huge success. Some of Sony's games have sold 10 plus million copies. I'm not saying we need to care about that. I'm saying what it proves is that people like these games. And that's good. I like the games, so I want to see them sell better, so I can get more of them. It's that simple. Let me see. Time tells no lies. You're saying it's weird whenever I hear that PlayStation should make their Game Pass, as I thought PlayStation Now was already at least potentially their form of that. I mean, look, there's like two sides to the coin here when it comes to PlayStation Now. I don't talk about it because I don't use PlayStation Now, and I'm not very familiar with it. But I see two different arguments. On one side, there are a lot of people who think that PlayStation Now is actually a better deal because it offers way more games than Game Pass. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not going to lie. I've heard that streaming from PlayStation Now is horrendous. I heard it's not good. But I've heard some others say it's okay. But from most people, I heard it needs to be greatly improved or enhanced. And then I see other people say that PlayStation Now doesn't hold a candle to Xbox Game Pass. Again, I have not dived into PlayStation Now enough to be able to speak to it either way. I'm just not educated enough. I don't know enough about it. I can only go based off what other people are saying. What I will say is that I think Sony is certainly not leveraging PlayStation Now the way they could be. I'm not saying the word should. I'm saying the word could be to compete with Game Pass because, again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. All right. If Sony were to see a decline in PlayStation 5 sales, and then they see a decline in Horizon Forbidden West sales, and then the next game, they see another decline, all Sony has to do is say, okay, we are doing our own Game Pass. It's called PlayStation Now, except now it's merging into PS Plus if they want to do that. And we're going to launch all of our games day and date into this new service. Maybe they'll rename it PlayStation Now Plus. You know what I mean? Something like that. That's it. Then Sony instantaneously has a competent competitor to Game Pass. And then instead of all of their marketing dollars going towards advertising each individual game, they put all of those marketing dollars and all of that marketing budget behind marketing this new service, just like Microsoft is. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see how quickly Sony could pivot? And suddenly, like I said, the pendulum swings back and forth very quickly sometimes. And in this case, the pendulum could swing back into Sony's favor just as quickly if they wanted to do that. So, let me see here. So, Devakin, once again, you're saying, hold on, let me move this. Oh, hold on, guys. Having a hard time seeing what you're saying. You're saying Xbox Series X and S and Game Pass is $315 or $515 equals 300 plus Insta games. PS5 and 3 AA/AAA games equals 610 to 710. How do you fight that? I'll tell you how you fight that. You don't. You don't. Again, what you are highlighting are two different business models, two different means to the same end, which is give us your money. Sony doesn't feel the need to kill people with the value proposition because they're more focused on not killing, you know what I mean? Like bringing you in with the quality proposition, with the, you like this game. So like, look, right now, in my opinion, Microsoft doesn't have a God of War. They don't. I know people are like Halo. Maybe. I know people are like Starfield. We don't know. But the reason why I'm saying God of War is because Sony knows that God of War is going to sell millions of consoles at $500, and it's going to sell millions of copies at $70. Sony knows this. So Sony doesn't care how many games Microsoft is offering on Game Pass. What they care is how many copies of their game and their console they're going to sell. If you want to say that, well, that's not as good of a deal to you as getting a Series S with Game Pass, then that's fine. But they're two completely different things. Completely. I want to point out this for a second. You're mentioning 300 plus Insta games. Who's going to be playing all 300 of those games? I wouldn't. I mean, I get that even if you play like 6 to 7 of those or 10 or 12 of those games out of that 300, then it's already paying for itself. Yes, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not denying that. But as I've said, like, it's two different business models and they both are seemingly working. Okay, that's all it is. That's all it is. Frederick, you're saying, if I recall, Microsoft was winning the mindshare wars leading up to this generation. Then the PS5 outsells Xbox 2-1. Success is more than social media hype. It is. It is. And I can tell you right now, it can go a long way. It can go a long way, but it can only go so far. So I think that, honestly, I think Xbox has much more mindshare right now than they did before. Maybe not much more, but they certainly have more. And Sony definitely lost some. But I don't understand like the idea that Sony, when they show some big games coming, like, and they start marketing games like Ratchet and Clank and Horizon, like, do you really think, like, honestly, I mean, let's be real. Do you think they're not going to get it back? Do you think people are not going to show up? Do you think everybody's just going to revolt? Or do you think that the overwhelming amount of people who bought a PS4 or who are going to buy a PS5 are just going to be excited about what they're seeing and then go buy those games and play them? I'm just saying, like, people don't talk about that. They just talk about the doom and gloom. Let's see. We also have Vegeta Super Blue. You're saying, MBG, for me and others, can we have MBG rant for people who can't have a PS5, please. Well, the truth is, man, I can only rant so much because I have talked about it at length. I've literally had podcasts that were dedicated to it. And there's only so much I can say, man. Like, it really sucks that people who want a PS5 are struggling. Like, they just can't get one right now. I know someone who wants a PS5 and can't get one. Like, he's even looked into purchasing it from scalpers, but he's even having a hard time buying it from scalpers. I tried to, tell him, maybe you I mean, if you really want one, man, and that's your only option, and like you really need one. I mean, scalpers suck. It's scummy, but it's right now for a lot of people, it's the only option. Then again, there are people who are dedicated. They literally have YouTube channels and Twitter accounts just dedicated to keeping you up to date. There's places you go. So it sucks, man. And I would, trust me, I think that's another thing that, believe it or not, is working against Sony. I think there are a lot of very resentful PlayStation fans who, if they found out right now that they could go to a store or go on Amazon and buy a PS5, like no problem, like just no problem whatsoever. I think a lot of people who are actively angry and upset with PlayStation right now would be a lot less upset and angry. And I think they'd be feeling pretty good that they could get a PS5. I really believe that. I think there's a lot of people who are just really not feeling good about this whole situation, and they want it to improve. And it really sucks that apparently we are at a crisis point with the semiconductor situation. I can only hope that it gets better sooner rather than later, and that, more people are able to get these consoles. I'm sure Sony's not happy about it either. So yeah, let's look at some of the other topics that I had lined up, because that was basically just one long rant. Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about this. I guess I'll just go over it. I highlighted this week that there were two separate developers who were talking very positively about the PS5, and I think that this is another reason people don't want to hear me talk too positively about what the PS5 can do, because it's going to take a little bit of time, but also, again, there's a lot of people who can't get them yet. But one developer was saying that he believes, this is a multi-platform developer, that the PS5's focus on leveraging texture streaming could actually offer, in the long run, an advantage over the Xbox Series X. And then another developer believes that the PS5's SSD will actually end up being the biggest game changer when it comes to next-gen games in general. The PS5's SSD. And I know that there's a lot of people, who they think the SSD is like a joke and it's a meme and whatnot, but I'd say it's no more or less of a joke than what we've seen with the Xbox Series X and the Tower Power and the 12 T-flops and whatnot. I only say that because it's like, look, it's going to take time. That's just the reality of it. And if you want to look at that as like a huge negative and it's a joke and whatnot, then fine, but it's going to happen. And I think it's interesting to hear what developers have to say. Just like that Remedy developer, he did confirm that, Microsoft changed their game development environment, and it's taken them a longer time to get their game Control running on it. But that's all he said. And, there's Xbox fans who run with it saying, oh, see, he's saying it's going to get better. I mean, he literally said both of these consoles are going to get better. I think that's obvious. That's how it goes every single time. The idea that one console is going to be far and away ahead of another, I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen either way. It might, but let me see what else I have here that we haven't talked about. Okay. So how many people care about E3? Chat, let me know. How many people still care about E3? I want to ask this because apparently E3 is set to return, and I don't really know if a lot of people care. I mean, I think after what we saw in 2020, I think that there's a lot less hype for E3 because publishers have proven that they're just going to do their own thing. I do think the one thing that E3 brings to the table is it consolidates everything. So it makes it a lot easier to digest, where it's like, like on these days, Like, this is when the big things are happening and you know not to miss it, right? Whereas, like, when every company, developer, and publisher is doing their own thing, it's like, oh, something over here, something over there, something up there. And oh, don't forget about this one over there. It's like, oh, like there's so many, they're everywhere. Like, how do I keep up? So I do think that that's one thing that's nice about it. Samson, you're saying, what if the show runs and looks better on the X? Well, I'll tell you this, Samson. We will wait to see if there will be a rant. I'll just leave it at that. A rant, if that happens. If a Sony developed game looks and runs better on the competing console, oh boy, will there be a rant in store, and it's not going to be good. So let's wait and find out. I mean, come on now. You guys already know. I have to imagine that Sony San Diego, they're like, even if they could make it look and run better, they're not going to. Right? Come on. Leo, you're saying, am I late, MBG? You talked about the show yet? I did, man. We talked about it for quite some time. You are late. Don't worry. You can come back and watch it after the fact. Don't worry. It's not going anywhere. Guys, by the way, real quick, I'm going to get Solid Snake. I'm going to get to your super chat really quick. Hit that like button, guys. We still have over 900 people here hanging out with me. Thank you guys so much for that. You're absolutely crushing it today. We're pretty much at 700 likes. Let's see if we can get it close to 800. That would be amazing. I'd really appreciate that. All right, so Solid Snake, you're saying, by the way, have you seen Lance McDonald's tweet where Sony is able to unlock the frame rate on older SDKs running on the PS5, essentially similar to FPS Boost? I have not seen that, and I do find it interesting. I don't know, man. I think people are just focusing on the wrong things right now. Like, I think FPS Boost is really nice thing that Microsoft is offering. But again, like, these are just things that I see people run with, like FPS Boost. And I'm like, I don't care at all, dude. Like, I mean, like, that's cool. But I don't know, man. Like, I'm over here hyping Returnal and Ratchet and Clank. And sometimes it feels like people are hyping these other things where I'm just like, all right, I guess, like, cool. I'm excited for new games, man. That's what I'm excited for. Devakin, you're saying Sony has Jeff Keighley. They don't need E3. Yeah, we have a Jeff Keighley. Summer Games Fest is happening as well, apparently, which I am excited about. I wonder if Sony will be there. Let me see here. CookX84, you're saying, a lot of y'all in the chat bugging. You know you'd be hyped for E3, lol. Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to go over this quick report with you guys, just talking about E3, because I think a lot of people are wondering, like, is Sony going to be at E3? Are they not going to be at E3? What are they doing? So I got to reload it here. Give me a second. Report. Many publishers are reserving their bigger main reveals for independent events outside of E3 2021. E3 2021 is just 10 weeks away, and we've still heard very little from the ESA regarding what this year's event will or won't entail. New reports now indicate that even if publishers and exhibitors opt to participate, they'll be saving their bigger main reveals for other events outside of E3. This may come in the form of independent events like Sony's PlayStation State of Play and the Square Enix Presents Showcase, or at other major industry events like Gamescom, Tokyo Game Show, PAX, and as part of Jeff Keighley's Summer's Game Fest, which is returning again this year. This comes by way of a much larger report from VGC on E3 2021 and the ESA's plans for the event, including verified documents from a pitch deck that was sent to publishers and potential exhibitors. The report led to a kerfuffle, which is a weird word to use, between the E3 organizers and VGC as the ESA walked back plans for a paid premium element of E3 2021 amid the rather negative feedback, despite pitching premium paid packages to publishers as recently as weeks ago. So it goes on to say, as part of the report, VGC spoke with multiple publishing sources who indicated that they expected to have some content for the digital E3 2021, but that they would be reserving their bigger main reveals and announcements for separate independent digital events. The cancellation of E3 2020, both as a physical and digital event, and the pandemic pushing everyone to stay at home last year helped publishers realize that they didn't need a centralized E3 in order to effectively bring attention to their games and announcements. Many publishers were already coming to that realization prior to 2020, with the likes of Activision, Sony, Microsoft, EA, and others separating themselves from the main E3 event more and more over the past few years. So, that's pretty much I mean, there's more here that we could go over, but I just want to kind of acknowledge this. And it looks like we have a big super chat here from Desmond Smith. Thank you so much, man. That's a huge, generous donation. Really appreciate that, man. Huge shout out to you for that. You're saying, hey, I've been here for a while, man. Love your content. Keep it up. And I got to tell you, man, like, I really appreciate that. Obviously, you're going above and beyond with a $100 donation, which is incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you to anybody who donates to the channel, anybody who's helping. You guys are honestly amazing. And I got to tell you, like, during these dark times, I hate to put it that, but come on, you see the rhetoric, you see everything that's going on during these dark times for PlayStation fans. You guys pull through. The community here is amazing. And I don't care what anybody says. Like, the community here truly is special. This January that just passed was a very dark time in my life. And you guys really, came here and supported me and showed your support. And you continue to do so, even removed from that. So I really do appreciate it, man. I can't thank you guys enough. I feel bad because it's like all I can say is thank you. But just know that your super chats, your memberships, and especially like generous donations like this, they go a very long way in making it so that I'm able to do what I do here. And I don't know if you noticed this, but I am slowly over time making more and more improvements to the channel. And I plan to branch out in some other ways to involve the community more so here on the channel, because you guys are such a big part of keeping this channel going and thriving. So thank you so much, Desmond. Really, really appreciate that, man. We also have Rick Ward with a $10 donation. Thank you so much, man. You're saying thank you. Well, I have to thank you for that. You guys are really just, coming out in full force, showing your support, and it does not go unnoticed, clearly. So thank you so much, man. Thank you to all of you. So, really got a sidetrack there, but I see you saying the toxic fanboy echo chamber, Sony is in no trouble, all hyperbole. Yeah, I mean, dude, like, I'm going to talk about E3 in just a second. Brian, you're asking when's the next gaming stream. Okay, so some of you may have noticed that I did a random impromptu stream last Wednesday, and I streamed for about an hour and a half, Dead by Daylight. The reason why I did that was I was going to do Demon Souls, but I honestly had like a bad headache, and I just wasn't feeling great. But I definitely wanted to stream because I just wanted to, and I thought, well, I was going to sit down and play some Dead by Daylight anyway. So I figured, you know what, let me hook it up to my monitor and I'll just play it here. And the stream did okay. Like, it didn't do amazing, but it's like, for a stream that I didn't warn anybody about on a game that you wouldn't think I would be streaming here on the channel, it did really well. So my plan is, and do not hold me to this yet, I have to kind of go through it to see how well it will work. Every Wednesday, I would like to do a stream, a Wednesday stream, just playing a game. Maybe I'll still put out a video that day, and then later on we'll do a stream. But I can't promise it will be every single Wednesday, but that's my goal. That's my hope. I want to make streaming more a part of the channel here on top of the regular content. We stream the podcast, obviously, like we are now, every week, but I feel like it's just a completely different flavor of content when you're doing a live podcast versus playing a game. So I'm hoping that maybe the next game we can stream is some Outriders, which I know isn't the biggest game that everybody's excited for, but the next big game I plan to stream is Returnal. And depending on how it goes, I may try to stream, an entire playthrough of it. And then obviously we'll stream some Deathloop, we'll stream some Ratchet & Clank. But yeah, that's something I plan to do here more on the channel, man. I'm trying to do more reactionary content, stuff like that. Just trying to flesh it out a little bit rather than just doing simply news and, rant Sundays with Press X podcast. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. Unintended Studios, you're saying, my wife and I just finished It Takes Two. It was a lot more fun than you expected. Yeah, my wife's actually been asking me to play that as well, so I hope to do that. I've been hearing nothing but good things about that game. Apparently, it's one of the best co-op games ever, so yeah, I'm definitely going to have to give it a shot, man. We also have Perfect Image. You're saying, do you think Sony closing the PS3 and Vita? You're saying, do you think Sony closed PS3 and Vita for PlayStation Now or One Network? So I think what you're asking is like, is the reason why Sony, they decided to close their stores like seemingly so abruptly is because they have an alternative solution with a different, offering something different in order to get people to access these older games. I think it's a 50-50 thing, man. I think that it might be. We have to wait and see. It might not be. So come on, Alex, stop with that. You're saying Returnal is trash, dude. Returnal is not trash. It's far from trash, man. I mean, look, dude, if Returnal comes out and it gets like a 4, like it's getting like 4 and 5 out of 10s, then I'd be like, okay, maybe there's something really wrong here, but I don't think it looks like that at all. So I see somebody asking, when is the next PlayStation event? I do have that in my title. Honestly, I think it's safe to say that Sony will have a big event of some sort in June. It could come later. It could come in July. I don't think it'll come in May. And as to what Sony may do before that, it's really anybody's guess. But I think, as I said earlier, I did touch upon this. I think that Sony's going to be bringing the heat, and I don't think you have to worry about that. So they're going to have an event. I think it's safe to say they're going to have an event. I mean, could Sony get away with not having a big event this year? No, I don't think they could. I don't think anybody could. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that, man. As to, you're asking me exactly what day, I don't know. I'm going to say sometime in June. But look, I'm going to move on from that, and we're going to move on to community submissions because I do have some plans today, and I can't let the stream go more than probably 2.5 hours. I'm going to try to make sure we, close it. What is going on with my screen right now? Are you guys seeing that? Chat, really quick, can you let me know, are you seeing that flickering on my screen right now? Were you guys, what was that? I don't know if that's like a reflection of some sort. That was really weird. I don't know what that was. My window's over here, and there's like, cars driving by and stuff, so I don't know if it may have been somebody that was stopped potentially, so sorry about that. Hopefully it doesn't keep doing that. But I want to move on to community submissions, and I want to. There's a strobe light in your house, yeah. It's a haunting. It's a demon in my house. Jeez, you guys are getting dark really quick. It's a demon. It's a. I'm not gonna go that far. That's just taking it too far. Anyway, let's move on to community submissions before things go completely off the rails here. For those who are not aware. Every week, I like to do community submissions. I post out on the community tab on the channel, community submissions where you can give your thoughts, opinions, questions, rants, anything you want to say, and I will try to pick them. There was one individual, I asked you guys when you do this, when you do the community submissions to be in depth and thoughtful about it. And I think some people have taken it too far. I've gotten some submissions that are literally like essays. And I have to tell you, I genuinely appreciate the depth and how intricate it is. But unfortunately, I cannot read like an entire essay on my podcast. So if you are that person and you're listening, just look it over and maybe like cut it down a lot. Try to make it like no longer than 1, maybe 2 paragraphs at most. Because if it goes longer than that, I'm simply not going to be able to read it. Because I feel bad. Because you can tell like this person put so much thought and effort into it. And also, if I don't pick your submission, don't feel discouraged. Just keep coming back each week with more submissions. I've also, and I can't promise anything here, but I've also been thinking about maybe doing a separate segment, kind of like a little cleanup, where I grab a bunch of the community submissions that I wasn't able to get for, past weeks. And kind of compile them and do like a separate thing with that. So anyway, first submission by 8-Bit Artist. Says, talk about how Kenna Bridge of Spirits is listed at $40 instead of $60 and how this might lower some people's expectations for the game. Now, I thought this was interesting because it goes to show the duality between the conversation of pricing of games. If a game is priced at $40, suddenly it's like, it's a lower quality game. It's a game where you should lower your expectations. Whereas a game like Returnal is priced at $70 and suddenly it's, this game doesn't look like it's worth $70. And I think it's weird, man, because I feel like you can't really win ever with pricing your game. I feel like if you should, like, here's a good example. How many of you in the chat right now, okay? Tell me in the chat, because I have it right here in front of me. How many of you are excited about Kenna Bridge of Spirits and plan to buy it when it launches? I have a feeling a pretty decent amount of you will want to do that. I see you're saying Kenna is a short game. Did we get confirmation for that? Somebody in the chat tell me, did we get confirmation that Kenna is a short game? See, a lot of you are saying me, definitely. A lot of you are saying yes. Did we get confirmation that Kenna Bridge of Spirits is a short game? Because I don't think we did. I'm trying to see if anybody answers this. No, he's trolling. I thought so. I mean, it's not very often that developers come out and say whether their game's short or not. Okay, question. How many of you now, if it wasn't $40, but it was $60, would still buy it? Vegeta, you're saying, I got timeout without any warning. I'm not sure why. Maybe you were, I don't know why that would have happened, man. I guess I apologize. I don't know what you said. I guess I'm going to say, like, my mods are pretty good, dude. Like, they would only put you on timeout usually if you're saying something bad or not good. So I guess I don't know what to say about that, man. My mods are pretty good. If you could tell me what you said, or maybe I can let you know what. Maybe that's why they did that. But thank you for the super chat, man. So I'm seeing a lot of people still saying he was spamming. Okay. Well, okay, dude, just try not to spam, because that's the number one thing. Not the number one thing, but definitely something that will give you a little timeout. So try not to spam, man. Perfect Image, you're saying, I believe 70% because PS5 has patience for legacies and AMD was their software tech coming soon. With their software tech coming soon. With knowing that, could it be a possibility? I mean, okay, you're talking about the patents. Okay, I misread what you said there. So sometimes I just literally read word for word what people are saying. Just really quick to touch on that. Yeah, there are patents. There are multiple patents that have come out and been renewed by Sony, where multiple individuals within Sony are working on it. It seems like they may have a solution to the legacy software. I mean, Microsoft's been working on it since 2015. The idea that Sony did not greenlight anything since then would be absurd to me. So I think there's a chance. It's 50-50, but I'm leaning more towards I want to believe, I guess. So I'll tell you right now, the whole pricing thing here, what 8-Bit Artist is saying, Kenna for me could be $60 and I'm still going to buy it. I'm going to buy it because it looks like, this is where, again, it's speak with your wallet. I'm not here to tell you Returnal or Kenna are worth their prices because I do not know. We can only go based off of the marketing. You could argue that the reason why so many people are hesitant to buy a game like Returnal for $70 is for two reasons. One, the pedigree of Housemarque. Not that it's a bad pedigree, but they're known for smaller games, more indie-like games, and maybe Sony's marketing of the game. They're not showing enough. They haven't shown enough to convince a lot of people that it's worth a full $70. So I think what's going to happen is Returnal is going to come out and people are going to review it. And a big part of that conversation is going to be people are either going to say this is definitely worth $70 and you need to go support it. It's worth it. Or they're going to say this should be $20 cheaper. You know, for me personally, what I've seen of Returnal, it looks like it could very well be worth a $70 purchase to me. Maybe not to you, but to me. But Kenna at $40, yeah, 100%, dude. Like, I don't think it should lower your expectations. I won't lie. Like, here's a good example. If I'm paying $40 for Kenna, I fully expect it to be, or let me put it the other way around. If I'm paying $70 for Returnal, I fully expect there to be more polish, more replay value, higher quality in pretty much every area, because you're talking about, a $30 more. And I expect it to be longer in length, and just overall there to be more than Kenna. I don't think that means Kenna's going to be extremely short or not worth $40. I think Kenna looks like it's going to be great. And frankly, I think it looks so good, they probably could get away with selling it for $60. But if they're pricing it, I try to put faith in the developers, okay? If the developer is saying our game, we believe it's worth $40 and that's the best price, that's the highest we can go, I'll believe them. If Housemarque's saying we believe we put enough in this game to justify a $70 price tag, I'll take your word for it. But if I pay that $70 and by the end I'm like, holy crap, this was not worth $70 at all, then we'll have a problem. But I'm willing to take that chance because, again, what I've seen so far, I like it. Okay, Kapapa, you're saying just join the podcast. Happy Easter to everyone. Yeah, thank you so much, man. Doing a long Easter Sunday podcast. Hope everybody's having a good holiday so far. Night Ferry Z34, you're saying prayers to the people out there that still haven't played The Last of Us. $60 or $70 doesn't matter. Wait for reviews, but in Sony exclusives we trust. Yeah, dude, honestly, that's how I feel. I feel like a good example that we've seen in the past when it comes to a game, I think Returnal could end up being the next Order 1886, but I kind of don't think it will be. I think Returnal will be worth, I don't know. I don't know if Returnal is going to be worth $70 for most people, but the Order 1886 was a game where it's like, when that came out, it's like, this should not have been a $60 game. And I can agree with that. There were just too many things working against it where it had so much potential. Imagine if the Order 1886 released at $20 or $30. I think it would be a much different conversation. But everybody was like, here we go. You're saying, MBG, I think it's all going to depend on how addictive the gameplay loop is. They must have a lot of faith in it for that gameplay loop to rest on procedural generation. And that's the thing, dude, is like, if it's a game where it's like, holy crap, this game has insane replay value, and it's like you could easily dump 40, 50, 60, 70 hours into it because that's how addicting it is. There's a lot of people who told me that Death Stranding isn't worth $60 because the gameplay looks bad and boring. And then I played it and I got addicted to that gameplay loop and I put literally over 100 hours into it. And it made me realize, like, yeah, this was definitely worth a $60 purchase. I even platinumed the game. So I think that's another good example. But we'll see. We'll have to see. Returnal is going to be really interesting. I'm nervous about streaming it because I feel like when I stream it, everybody's going to be like, oh, is this worth 70? Is this worth 70? And like, guys, I've been playing it for like 2 hours. I don't know, But the presentation looks good. Graphically, the presentation, the gameplay looks fun. We just have to see how much meat is there. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what it comes down to. Drive by Joe, you're saying, love your podcast. Make it a long one today. I got a 12-hour shift and need the content. Well, I think it's already over 2 hours now, man. So I'm glad you enjoy it. It'll probably be anywhere between 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 30 minutes. So plenty of content for you to enjoy. I also did a 45-minute stream the other day where you can check that out. And then I also streamed Dead by Daylight, which you probably need to watch that to enjoy it, but plenty of streams. Desmond Smith, once again, man, you're saying, I think people are most skeptical of paying $70 or more for a game after buying Cyberpunk 2077, since it was promoted as a possible Game of the Year nominee and turned out to be unplayable. I think you bring up a good point, man. And I think that's totally fair. I'm going to put this out there right now. Returnal will be a better game than Cyberpunk 2077, simply because Sony's not going to release anything ever that's anywhere near that type of quality level that we saw with Cyberpunk 2077. So at the very least, you're going to get a finished, polished game. I don't think I'm not saying it'll be perfect, but the game already went gold literally a month before it launches. So I think it's good to go. But I do understand what you're saying. It's going to take not only having that level of polish that a $70 game would need to have. as I said, man, like, I think it's like, you look at Cyberpunk, I think it's the opposite. Like Cyberpunk, clearly there was like a lot of meat on the bone, but it was basically raw meat that you couldn't eat. You know what I'm saying? So in this case, like a $70 title or a full-blown AAA priced game, it needs to have a lot of meat on the bone, and it has to be edible, and it has to be good. It's as simple as that. That's the analogy I'll give. Magnum Visuals, you're saying, I feel like Returnal is going to be one of those R-type games, but the first in 3D that is immersive with sound and graphics and action that changes every time you play it. Yeah, dude. I mean, I have high hopes for Returnal. I hope I'm not putting too many eggs in the Returnal basket, but I hope it doesn't turn out to be one of these games where it's like everybody like who plays it like ends up looking at each other and thinking, Sony, you really messed up by pricing this at $70. I hope it's more of a, wow, I doubted that this game would be worth $70, and I'm finding myself pleasantly surprised that it seems like it is. I hope that's what happens because it looks really good. I think that the replay value, again, I think it is going to come down to that addictive nature of it. So anyway, I do have to move on to the next community submission before this ends up being too long. David writes in and he says, given that Microsoft has 23 studios besides Bethesda, which will operate as they were before being acquired, do you think they were able to manage so many studios, or do you think they are able to manage so many studios to produce great results on par with Sony? They seem to not even be able to manage one studio, that being 343 for launch. I think this is actually an interesting inquiry here because I think what's crazy is people jump to the conclusion that Microsoft is going to be releasing banger after banger, and they're going to suddenly compete with the type of games that Sony puts out. And I think people are jumping to conclusions too quickly by doing that because we do need to look at the example of what they showed last year with Halo Infinite, where it's like somebody in Microsoft, I'm assuming Phil Spencer, had to sign off on that and say, oh yeah, this is good enough to show, this is ready, put it out there. And when you realize that, maybe it was Matt Booty, because I think he's in charge of the first party studios, you suddenly have the disturbing realization that, holy crap, like they thought this was good enough. They thought people would actually be excited about this and that there wouldn't be backlash. Because I can tell you right now, if they actually thought that there would be backlash the way we saw with Halo Infinite, they would have never signed off on it. They would have literally just been like, all right, we're going to have to cut this down. We're going to have to show just another CG trailer or whatever, you know what I mean? Or just something like that, like a cut scene. That would get backlash, but not anywhere near as bad. And to be fair, the backlash was good because it they got the message loud and clear. But I think he does bring up a good point because it's like Bethesda will remain autonomous. Like they're going to continue to do what they do. Again, I think that's another reason why Microsoft made this acquisition the way they did, because they're like, we're going to buy basically a publisher. We're going to buy a publisher essentially that already knows how to handle it. They already know what to do. And I don't think Bethesda has the greatest track record either. I think that in a way there is a similarity shared between Microsoft Studios and Bethesda Studios, where it's like sometimes you guys let too many games come out that are just simply not ready, especially with Bethesda and how they're infamous for having really buggy games. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see if maybe their management improves. I will say this, though. There is a silver lining with having that many studios. They don't need to worry about giving their studios more time. That's a huge benefit with having so many studios. So if like 5 of your studios are ready to go and like 10 of your studios need more time, no problem. Those 10 studios can take the time they need. Huge benefit there that works in Microsoft's favor, but still, we have to wait and see. So I think it was a good question. I can't give you a definitive answer, obviously, but we have CookX84 again, man. You're saying simply, I think after Cyberpunk and Godfall, they should just give out demos. Working out so far for it's working out well so far for Chris Tales. Okay, so what you're saying again, I'm not gonna lie, CookX. This is another advantage that Microsoft has with Game Pass, where people can look at Game Pass as a try before you buy situation. And I do agree. this is where maybe Sony needs to consider, the reason why I think Sony isn't worried about doing that is I want you to think of it this way. When a game comes out and it gets a ton of praise and it like gets a high, high review scores, a high Metacritic, and everybody's talking about it very positively, do you really need to worry about letting people try your game before they buy it? Or are you more along the lines of everybody loves this game, it'll speak for itself and people will want to play it? It's more about you will come to us rather than us bringing it to you. I think Sony's been doing that well, and I think Returnal is going to be a good example of if this game is not talked about in a super positive way and it's kind of mixed, that's going to be bad. A lot of Microsoft's games, honestly, that's how they're talked about, in a very mixed way where it's like, it's okay, and I think that leads to a lot. That's why I think a lot of their games last generation just didn't sell, because games like Quantum Break, games like Rise, games like, well, maybe not Sunset Overdrive. That was a weird one that I don't know why that didn't succeed. But those types of games, it's like they're talked about like, it's State of Decay 2. It's like, oh, they're okay. And it makes a lot of people be like, I'm just going to wait then until it's on sale, And there's a difference. I feel like people have a different mentality when it's like, oh my God, this game's like a 9 out of 10. This game's amazing. Go play it. I feel like people approach that differently. They react to it differently. Creeping Stage 514, you're saying, I thought Mass Effect Andromeda was a bad game, but then I tried it and the story is boring AF, but combat is very tight and fun. And so, yeah, sometimes you just got to jump in yourself, man. Sometimes you just got to take some risks. You will be burned from time to time, but sometimes it's worth taking the risk. There's nothing wrong with that, I think. I mean, we are talking about spending money here, but I'm taking a risk on Returnal. I'm paying for that game out of pocket with my money. I'm not being given a review code or anything. And I think also one last thing about Returnal, it will be interesting to see when reviews for that game drop. If reviews come out early, like I think if Sony is confident, I'll put it to you this way. If you see reviews come out early, that's a great sign, because that means Sony and Housemarque are confident the game is going to get positive reviews. And if it does get positive reviews, and those positive reviews start to flow out early, that's, I think, going to sway a lot of people into being like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna buy this game because it's sounding really good. Primal Plasma, you're saying, after Fallout 76, I will only buy a new Bethesda game if there's a good word of mouth. Well, the good news is, Primal Plasma, you won't have to worry about buying Bethesda games ever again. If you are somebody who always felt that you were burned by them being buggy or low quality, at least some of them, you won't have to worry about that. You can just play it through Game Pass, pay $10 and you get access to it. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. The Real Rider writes in and says, with MLB The Show 21 coming to Xbox Game Pass day one, did Sony make a mistake to allow it? I'm sure Microsoft paid a lot for it, but there has to be more, right? Did MLB have a say? Or maybe Sony wants to see how it performs on Game Pass in order to evaluate whether or not it's worth them to release games into PlayStation Now, or whatever future service they had planned on the same day as launch. So maybe I'm regretting including this one. I thought it was a relevant write-in, but I kind of already answered all of this. So I'm going to just, wrap it up really tight here. I think Sony suspected this would happen. I think once Sony realized that they were basically giving up MLB The Show to the MLB, that anything could happen. So I don't think Sony's caught off guard by it going to Game Pass. I just don't know that they were involved in that conversation. Again, I feel like it's very obvious that the MLB went to Sony, said, you're either going to renew it with us and we're going to let you continue to develop it and make a pretty penny for developing it. And we're going to do what we want with it. Or you're going to say no and we walk away and you get nothing. The MLB strong-armed Sony. It's as simple as that. I think if it was up to Sony, make no mistake, I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain that if it was up to Sony, MLB would still be exclusive. Because if it wasn't up to Sony, why would MLB exclusive be exclusive all the way up until this point? Just suddenly, the MLB strong-armed them. But I, as I said, I think there is a silver lining that Sony will have access to valuable data from Microsoft's side of things that they will probably look at very closely, and it may end up influencing their plans in the future. So thank you for the write-in. Vincent writes in with an opinion. He says, I think that fast travel in games can sometimes greatly devalue the experience. I just replayed through Days Gone and Horizon without fast traveling, unless stuck, and I have to say that it completely transformed my appreciation for both games. The possible narratives that could be created by chance encounters, especially in Days Gone, the awe of really taking in the beautiful vistas, and the considerations you have to make in terms of inventory management and route planning really enhanced my personal immersion. I think with the slower chewing of Days Gone mixed with no fast traveling really upped it in a few points personally. And by extension, I can understand how reviewers could have had a reduced experience by having to binge a game for work that was meant to be savored. I'm sure others do this, but it has been a revelation for me. Now, it's worth noting this opinion was the most upvoted the last time I checked. And so just to react to this opinion, I actually never really considered this. I feel like I take something like fast travel for granted, where sometimes when I play games long enough, I start to feel like I'm not trying to rush through it, but if like I'm trying to platinum a game, I'll start to just fixate and focus on the platinum so much where it's like I miss everything else, and it's just I'm so focused in on that one goal of completing whatever task that I forego anything else. And I think you're right. I think the idea that fast travel exists and I can use that as a way to help me trophy hunt in a more efficient manner, it probably does make it so that I am missing out on some things. So with this being said, I really think that the next, you know which game I actually like never used fast travel in and it kind of did change my experience? Death Stranding, to bring this up again. I know fast travel existed in that game, but I like never used it. And honestly, the nature of that game, you couldn't really use fast travel. There were tools that you could use like bikes and whatnot and zip lines to help, more efficiently go through. But there was something about that game where it's like you were kind of forced to take in the environment and enjoy the vistas, as you say, and enjoy it. And so I think maybe the next game I play where fast travel is okay, actually no. Now I'm thinking more about it. When I played Spider-Man Miles Morales, I didn't use fast travel really ever. I only used it like maybe a couple of times to just get to a certain thing I had to do, but pretty much every time I always decided I wanted to swing around because I wanted to take in the city. Like I honestly, I know not everybody shares this opinion, but I am blown away, honestly, by the level of detail. And I feel like Insomniac doesn't get enough credit for this that they put in their world. Like, I remember when I first booted up Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PS5 for the first time in performance mode, I was literally like blown away visually by just how amazing the world looked. And I'm like, they're doing such a good job with it. So I do think there is something to what you're saying here, Vincent. True Witty writes in and says, question, Sony makes big money on Spider-Man. Suddenly Marvel wants it multi-platform, just like MLB. They need to let the license go on MLB because it makes Sony look weak. What do you think? So apparently somebody did answer this earlier where they said that you're saying Insomniac is Sony's unsung hero. I agree. I got a super chat earlier that mentioned it, but they were basically saying that that's not going to happen because then Sony could pull Spider-Man out of the Marvel universe. And so it's kind of like, Sony basically has this card to play where it's like, we won't play this card if you don't play that card. Let's just keep this mutual agreement and keep this going. That's what somebody said. I guess there's truth to that. I don't follow too much with the with what's going on with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I think that is a thing. So I don't think we have to worry about that, if that's true. Maybe you guys in the chat can let me know. Is that something Sony could do that Marvel couldn't control, where if Marvel said, or Disney said, we want you to make this game multi-plat, and Sony says no, and they're like, no, do it, or we're not going to let you make it, then Sony could turn around and be spiteful and say, we're pulling Spider-Man out of the MCU because you wouldn't let us keep our game exclusive on our platform, or this game exclusive. I'm assuming that that's a thing that could happen. You're saying Sony only owns the movie rights to Spider-Man. Marvel owns literally every other. Well, that may be true, Darren, but if that's true, then Sony could do that, right? You're saying, but Rashdam, you're saying Marvel owns Spider-Man. See, I'm not sure. I'm not I'm not well versed enough. Spider-Man is tied with Sony. Well, regardless, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. It might, but I don't know. I think that Sony's like, hey, look, we sell so many, like Spider-Man is their best selling game, I believe. I think it's definitely surpassed Uncharted 4 at this point. Dude, it's made them so much money. I don't think Disney's going to care, man. I don't, unless Microsoft is like, dude, Disney, we could give you billions of dollars to do that. I don't know. Microsoft could do that. I think what Microsoft should do, if anything, they should go to Disney and be like, okay, Sony has Spider-Man. Let's buy our own character that, let's talk to them. Let's negotiate. We'll get our own character that we can use, make an exclusive game for. I think that they should do that. All right, let's see here. Christian Slater writes in and says, hi, I have a question. Is it possible that Sony will save God of War gameplay for 2022 and focus on Horizon gameplay at Sony's next E3 event? I think there is 100% a chance that they could do that, but I think Sony is trying to, and this is just very much, let's put on our tinfoil hat time, conspiratorial territory. I think Sony is doing a lot of recon behind the scenes to figure out what Microsoft's plans are this summer with their own big showcase, because now Sony has to contend with Microsoft Studios, which now includes all of Bethesda. For all we know, Microsoft may be planning to go balls to the wall with game reveals. For all we know, one of Microsoft's plans this year is to literally bombard us with reveals from Bethesda to the point where people are going to be in shock. And I feel like it's critical for Sony to have some idea, because, these are billion-dollar corporations that are competing with each other. I certainly believe that if Sony wanted to have a general idea of what Microsoft might be doing, they could find a way to make that happen, And so I feel like Sony right now is trying to figure out how many cards they're going to have to play. Is Sony going to have to come with a big gun or the big guns? Is Sony going to have to come with one ace up their sleeve or a few aces up their sleeve? I think that's kind of what Sony's doing right now. And so I think there's a chance that Sony will save that God of War gameplay, but I feel like at this point in time, if Sony really wants to swing the momentum back into their favor, I think they're going to put a huge emphasis on Horizon. I think Horizon's going to be the big holiday title this year, but I think they're also going to show a little something, maybe not a full 10-minute gameplay demo, but here's what I could see happening. We get a full 10 to 15 minute gameplay demo of Horizon Forbidden West that just blows people's minds, like, holy shit, this game is amazing. This game is mind-blowing. And then we get a trailer for God of War similar to the trailer we have out right now for Horizon. It's not like a CG trailer, but it's also not a gameplay trailer. It's kind of in between. I think that's what we could see. But if Sony really wanted to go balls to the wall themselves, they could show gameplay of Horizon, of God of War, and they could bring Silent Hill, and they could bring Metal Gear, and they could show off another game, and The Last of Us multiplayer, all this stuff. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. All right, so we have one last write-in and submission from Yippee-Ki-Yay. He says, your thoughts on sports games and the future of them. The quality of games keeps going down, but the likes of EA make more and more money from them. I used to love them growing up, playing all types with plenty of sports I wasn't even into. These days, I don't even buy ones for my favorite sport. So just to speak to this, because I thought this was interesting, as I said earlier, I think this is where Microsoft is actually doing really, really good work for the industry, truly. The fact that Microsoft is finding a way to consolidate these sports games into Game Pass, where if you are a sports fan, even of just two of these games, you should subscribe to Game Pass, because that is the best way to experience these games. Honestly, I'm all about owning games. That's my preference. I like to own games. But at the same time, this is where Microsoft, I think, is doing incredible work, where it's like they're finding a way to make it easier for people who don't want to constantly pay every year for these sports games just for roster updates and very, 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 very minor updates. You don't have to. And I think that's great. So that's actually the answer here is, in this case, I know it sounds crazy. The answer to this is, if you are a sports game fan, subscribe to Game Pass. that would honestly be your best bet, especially if you're a fan of more than one of these sports games. You're saying the movie deal is about control rather than money. Disney and Marvel create Spider-Man movies for Sony. Disney sees no money from that, but it means they secure Spider-Man canon when he appears in the MCU. Yeah, that sounds about right to me based off of my knowledge. And so I guess if Sony really wanted to, they could. I mean, it depends on the type of contract that they signed, but I guess if Sony really wanted to, they could break that contract. Be like, no, you're not. We're not letting you make Spider-Man part of the MCU. It's my assumption anyway. Anyway, guys, I am pretty spent right now, and I have some things I got to do today. So I want to extend a massive, absolutely massive thank you to you guys. You really showed up in force today. We're over 800 likes. So guys, one last time before you head out, make sure you hit that like button. Maybe we can get it close to 850 likes before the podcast ends. And I would like it if you could do me a favor. Yeah, sorry, I just got distracted there, making sure I'm not missing any super chats. I'd like it if you could do me a big favor. And when this podcast is done, first of all, again, shout out to Devil Shooter for doing the timestamps. Really appreciate that. If you could leave a comment to help the podcast out, just leaving a comment is very important on, on YouTube for some reason as well. Helps get the content out into the algorithm. But let me know if you like this format. This is the first podcast I've ever done, I believe. I may have done one other, but this is the first one where there is no gameplay. It's just me on camera. So let me know if that's something you would want me to do, if you would prefer to have gameplay or a mixture of both. Obviously, if I do a mixture of gameplay and being on camera, I would have to make the image you're seeing of me much smaller. So let me know in a comment after the fact what you prefer. But huge thank you, huge shout out to all of my members. Again, I cannot thank you guys enough. You allow me to do what I do here on the channel. You help power it. You help keep it alive and thriving. So thank you so much. I think things are just starting to heat up. There's no doubt Sony has been more on the quiet side. Some news coming out that's not so ideal. But I think that things are going to start to heat up in a big way for everybody, including PlayStation fans, in the coming months. So that's going to do it, guys. Until next time, take care.